And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, 343 unfolds to go. Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome to another NSF live stream. That's right, we are going to watch a very special launch today. 4 astronauts are launching on the Fram2 mission and into a 90-degree inclined polar orbit for the very first time. Whole bunch of firsts on this mission, whole bunch of exciting stuff to talk about. I'm Jack Beyer for NSF. I'll be your host this evening for, can I say historic? For this historic launch. And yeah, joining me, we have Alex. Alex, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You know, it's Falcon 9 after Falcon 9, but hey, this one is special, right? As you mentioned, it's full of firsts. So, yeah, really exciting.
Am I coming through okay? Do you hear me all right, Alex? I'm sorry about the robotic stuff there.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it just went a little bit stuttery. You were fine before we went live. Like this is the perils of going live, right? That sometimes unexpected things happen.
You never know what's going to happen. We were chatting for like an hour there. Anyway, this is a really exciting mission. Alex, let us know what's going on here.
Yeah, let's get you some robotic operations there. But in the meantime, you know, this is gonna be the first crewed flight into polar orbit. We're gonna have the Fram2 mission, 4 people going on Resilience. That's the Crew Dragon on board here, up there at top Falcon 9. As you can see there at 39A, Launch Complex 39A, very historic. And now we're gonna join as well another record, I guess, to this list of many historic flights from this pad, which is also this crewed flight into low Earth orbit, in a polar orbit. So for those that don't know, you might be wondering, wait. So like polar orbit, this hasn't happened before? It is true. It hasn't happened before. There's been launches to very high inclination orbits. The highest inclination has been to 65-degree orbits, with the sort of the Soviet missions with the Vostok and Voskhod sort of missions. And then also there was a shuttle mission, STS-36, that went to a 62-degree inclination orbit. But so far, nothing beyond that. And so that's the launch trajectory for today. Gonna go out to the southeast a little bit at first, and then as it heads out and clears a little bit of the shore, right, it's gonna sort of dogleg, as we call it, yaw to the south with that second stage and get into that 90-degree orbit inclination. So that's pretty much the key thing, like the big thing of this mission today. Of course, you know, as always, you're gonna be we're gonna be covering here along as we go through. As we're showing before as well, the crew right now is at the Falcon support building at 39A. They're suiting up and sort of going through the final few things before departing for the pad. They are technically still at the pad. It's just that the building is like, you know, a few hundred meters off from the launch site, and still, you know, they need to drive up there. So we're gonna see them arrive here. We're gonna see them board the Dragon. Unfortunately, we don't have that feed of the Dragon. SpaceX is not covering that, so we're gonna have to see them arrive there. But we're gonna have all the cameras pointed at the crew access arm and seeing them arrive there as well. So stay tuned for that. We have lots of people in the field. Jack, are you back? I see you are back from those robotic operations.
I am back. How do you have me? Am I loud and clear?
You're loud and clear, and it seems like a lot more stable.
Hooray, I didn't change anything. Thanks, Discord. Anyway, this is a really exciting mission with a lot of historic firsts. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a camera person, but one of the people, the commission commander on this, is going to is a cinematographer. So I'm hoping we get a whole bunch of really amazing imagery from this mission, plus a whole bunch of science as well, which we will talk about. Speaking of talking, we also are expecting Sawyer here in a little bit, so it won't just be Alex and I chit-chatting, we'll have Sawyer on as well, so he can flex about astronauts that he knows and share his knowledge and wisdom with us. But in the meantime, while we talk about the mission and wait for that countdown clock you can see there at the press site to continue counting down, you can ask us any questions you have by typing at NASA Spaceflight in chat, and it'll show up in some software that we have running in the background. So, yeah, this should be pretty cool, Alex. First time humans are going to launch to a 90-degree inclined orbit. What are you, just right off the bat, like, what are you most excited for, potentially, like, to come out of this mission? I mean, I already said mine. It's the imagery.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously there's research on board. They're doing things with like X-rays for the first time in space. They're doing a lot of other medical stuff as well. They're also looking into growing mushrooms in space as well for future expeditions, because the kind of nutrients that it gives off, it's a little bit different and everything, and it's a bit easier to harvest and all of that and be able to grow and things like that. So they're trying all the things as well. But of course, the key, like, you could do all of that probably in any other orbit, right? Like an Earth orbit that is low inclination, 28 degrees, 51 degrees like the ISS and things like that. But the key point of this mission is, of course, that polar orbit. And in order to get into that polar orbit, they had to change a bunch of things, because even Polaris Dawn, for example, or Inspiration 4, which were also free flyer missions of Crew Dragon, right? They still went to a 51.6 degree inclination, which means they used the same guidance, for example, to get into that same orbit than they do for an ISS mission. They use the same abort corridor, for example. For this, is a whole complete new thing in terms of how Falcon 9 flies Crew Dragon and how Crew Dragon needs to fly and abort if they're, if obviously we don't want that to happen, but if it needs to happen, they need to make sure that that Dragon doesn't end up, I don't know, in Cuba, for example. So we're going to be talking about that also during the course of this broadcast, that there's a few things that need to be changed for this mission, even the landing of the booster. So stay tuned, because we're going to go through all of that information. That's why we begin like 3 hours before. It's not just because there's things happening, sure, but there's also a lot of things to go through.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, and I do, speaking of talking about things, want to correct myself. The vehicle commander is going to be the cinematographer. That is Jannicke Mikkelsen. The mission commander is Chun Wang, who financed the mission. So I just want to make sure we get that correct there, because, hey, these people are strapping themselves to a rocket and going into space. So, might as well get it right. Cool. Well, let's see if we have any rather interesting questions we can hit right off the bat. About 3 hours to go. We will get a situation report or sit rep from Sawyer once we get Sawyer on. And I know Max is out in the field as well, setting up cameras and whatnot. So we will have the team out in force as usual. The visual ice is asking, how come the astronauts' arms are bizarrely upwards pointing in those spacesuits? I think you're thinking about Jared doing the EVA on Polaris Dawn, and that was just because his arm was resting in that position. If you've ever seen our interview with Jared, that is actually something we talk about. Speaking of talking with astronauts, go ahead.
I was gonna say that in 0G, that's usually sort of the resting position of the arms, because you don't have any gravity to pull them down. So it's like you put them sort of at your sort of chest height, so to speak. But yeah, talking to astronauts.
Yeah, we have someone joining the stream who's talked to a lot of astronauts. Sawyer, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. In fact, you and I were on that one with Jared Isaacman. But right now, if you look towards the rocket, it is an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful night. If you look backwards away from the rocket, it is a very ugly, some scary clouds coming our way night. So it's going to be a lot of dipping and dodging, but hopefully we get this rocket off tonight.
Yeah, fingers crossed the weather cooperates. It is sort of a watch item. Do we know what percentage of chance of violation there is, Sawyer?
We haven't had an official update in 2 days, but the most recent forecast, which is again of note 2 days old, was 70% favorable, with concerns being potential rain earlier in the window and thick clouds later in the window, and of course concerns with abort weather. But the latest official one that we saw from SpaceX was 60%.
Yeah, that was at the L-7 hour update. One of the interesting things of this mission, I guess, it's because it's private. The commander, the mission commander, Chun Wang, he gave a lot of updates lately, like day by day, and shared a lot of stuff from us as well, which is really nice. He was watching Space Coast Live. He shared out our article and everything, so that's very nice. But of course, he also said that there was an update at L-7 hours, and indeed, we got that from SpaceX saying that weather was 60% favorable.
Yeah, I saw Chris posted the article a little while ago in the chat, the mission overview article we did. It's really great if you haven't read it already. But yeah, check it out. We should talk about the crew on this mission because they're the ones riding a rocket into space. Should not? What do you think? You think we should do that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, first we have Chun Wang, the mission commander. So far, 0 days in space, 0 EVAs. He co-founded F2Pool and what's the other one? Starts with an S, Stakefish or something like that. They're both Bitcoin mining
Stakefish.
pools. And Chun is the one financing this mission. If you know Jared from Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn, you can think of Chun as this mission's Jared. Sawyer, if you have anything to chime in, I know you're our astronaut pal. You're our pal who's the astronaut's pals. You get it. Chime in if you feel like.
I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Again, this is a very unique one in that we have 4 space-time first flyers with this. And it's that interesting thing with Crew Dragon is that you have the people that are trained to fly it, but 99.9% of things are already done automatically on board. So that's why you can have someone who's a Bitcoin miner on board and the other people who are actually set to command the vehicle and pilot the vehicle that will be able to maneuver the spacecraft. And I know you're about to talk about them next.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's go to Jannicke
Mikkelsen. Vehicle commander, again, first-time flyer, film director, and cinematographer, specializing in 3D and virtual reality. How cool is that? How many times have I said on our streams, we should send real photographers, we should send real cinematographers?
Yeah,
This is amazing.
She actually the other day they had a Spaces on the SpaceX X account, and she actually talked about how she got in contact with Don Pettit on the ISS to precisely coordinate things like photographing same things from orbit, but she was going to be on a polar orbit and he's going to be from the ISS, so they can coordinate that. And it was sort of interesting that sort of talk about they're going to be doing research, but she, as a film director and cinematographer, she wants to obviously capture things from space. And in that unique orbit from polar inclination, that's obviously unique. Like you don't get that any other crew mission. So that's really, really awesome. She also talked about, because she's the vehicle commander, right? And she talked about, when I was assigned this, I had to train like an actual astronaut to control Dragon, and she was sort of all enjoying herself about that sort of thing as well. Also from she's carrying the Norwegian flag on this mission, so it's also going to be some of the first as well for Norway in that sense.
Yeah, I think we just passed the vernal equinox, which is not something I know about ever. I just read the article. But that means the South Pole is going to be completely in shadow. And I'm wondering if we're going to get some really spectacular, I'm hoping we're going to get some really spectacular visuals of like Steve, that crazy aurora like spike thing, any kind of interesting effects over the South Pole. Next up, we have Rabea Rogge. Again, first-time flyer. They are a polar scientist. They are the mission pilot for this. They are a robotics researcher from Germany, currently pursuing their PhD in Norway. Pretty dang cool. All of this mission is it's just loaded with different polar explorers and scientists.
Now till when?
And it's not a surprise that a lot of things are related with Norway. We'll talk about the significance with Norway with the name as well. But it's really interesting as well that it's all connected in that sense. We just had a launch from Norway, by the way, the other day.
How cool is that? Sorry, did you say something? I feel like you might have got cut off there.
What we were talking about is there's a Phase 1 lightning watch that just went into effect here. That's what you heard me discussing, because they just announced that over the loudspeakers from now until
Yikes.
2200 hours local, so 10.
All right. And next up, I don't have to try to pronounce this name correctly. Eric Phillips.
From Australia.
Polar explorer, adventurer, and guide. They're going to be the mission specialist and medical officer. And one of the first 2 Australians to ski to both of the poles. I'm excited for all 4 of these people. This is going to be quite an experience for all of them. And we all get to kind of ride along because no doubt there's going to be a lot of interesting imagery coming from this mission as we've discussed. So there is your crew for Fram2. All civilian, all polar researchers or explorers. All
And
interesting.
There's another, I guess it's a first and a second. So we had Crew 10, and we had Nicole Ayers and Anne McLean as the pilot and commander of the Crew Dragon. We had another 2 females being pilot and commander of Dragon on this mission. So it's going to be the second time that happens, and also the first for a commercial private mission. So that's like, a second and a first on this mission as well. There's like a gazillion firsts and seconds and whatever, if you want to call it like that. But I was mentioning Norway before, and the whole point of the mission, like Fram2, that name comes from the Norwegian boat or ship, I guess, Fram, which was used on some of the first expeditions to the South Pole. So like that's also sort of like carry on that legacy as well, because that's why it's called Fram2. It's like the second Fram, and it means forward in Norwegian.
Nice. A little bit of history trivia there for you. Super cool. I think they're going to be taking. Oh yeah, we have a picture of it right there. They're taking a piece of the teak from the ship with them into space.
Yep. Very on point. It was a polar explorer, and of course, this one is going to a polar orbit.
Yes,
That's
peak teak,
remarkable.
and that's why it's Fram 2. For people wondering what happened to Fram 1, that's what you see in the photo is the ship.
Nice. You know what this immediately makes me wonder? Remember how on Polaris Dawn they had the violin and they had to qual the violin in order to fly in Dragon? I guess that was because of the EVA and the exposure to vacuum and all of that. But I wonder if any sort of qual had to occur on the teak in order to get it, able to fly on Dragon. I know they're not doing an EVA on this mission, probably a different set of requirements, but I do sort of wonder if any engineering had to be done on that piece of wood.
Well, anything that goes into space, especially on a crew mission, it gets inspected by NASA, basically, or in this case, SpaceX. They look through it, they test it, they run it through things, check the materials to see if there's anything that could flake away, that could damage, that could all of a sudden become dislodged randomly into some circuit or vent or whatever. So all of these things are checked and prepped before they ever get on board the spacecraft. So it's always possible, or maybe it's inside of a protective bag or something like that for that very reason.
Yep.
Yeah, good
And
point.
And Jack, we were talking before about the Jannicke, right?
Yep.
Being a cinematographer. if you're going to a polar orbit and it's a private mission and you're not going to the ISS, you don't need to dock. And the whole point of the polar orbit is also seeing the poles. Why not carry a cupola? So this mission is also carrying a cupola, which is the second time for Resilience, because this is the same spacecraft that was used on the Inspiration 4 mission that also carried that cupola. And so they're going to be having those amazing views from there.
Heck yeah.
In fact, they have learned stuff from Inspiration 4. So they have like extra supports and everything, and even mounts to be able to put their cameras against the cupola, which is
Amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. I'm so excited. And I'm glad you brought up the cupola because correct me if I'm wrong. This Dragon has had a docking adapter because it flew on Crew 1. It has had a cupola because it flew on Inspiration 4. It has had the Skywalker fixture for EVAs because it flew on Polaris Dawn. And now, again, it has the cupola. It's like, I would really love to know more about this particular aspect of Dragon from SpaceX in terms of how much work is it to swap these things out? Because it seems like they can do it with, I don't want to say with ease. I don't want to trivialize probably a whole team of people's hard work, but it's really cool that they can swap out the, whatever they have up there. Oh, look at that.
Look at that storm.
Yeah, that's right behind me.
That doesn't look good.
That is less than optimal. Is that Max on the roof?
No, I believe that is our friends at NBC.
Oh, nice.
But no, that is definitely a shelf cloud. That is definitely with rain, and that is definitely behind me.
Well, shucks. At least we have plenty of time before launch, but we will be keeping an eye on the weather. Also, while we were talking about this particular Dragon, it also still has the Starlink Placer from Polaris Dawn. So,
it's a different one.
Explain, please.
Well, because the Placer is on the trunk, and that gets discarded.
So they have the Starlink Placer system, but not the same one because the trunk burns up. Thank you.
Yep. So they have the laser system, which allows them to get like gigabit connectivity, which is completely unheard of in orbit or in space in general. Like you don't get that kind of connectivity, even with your if you get your own Starlink antenna on the ground for the user connection, right? You don't get that connectivity at all. But with a laser, because it allows higher bandwidth, it gets you like over 1 gigabyte of connectivity, which is quite a treat.
That is awesome. All right. Well, really quickly, I do want to thank some people for supporting what we do here at NSF. So I think this is Kistor is how I should pronounce that, becoming a Capcom member. Thank you for that. You get Discord access at Capcom level and above. So pop into the Discord and say hey. Echo Deal also with a super chat. Thank you, Echo Deal. They say, oops, all rockets. It has been a busy day here. Bideford, thank you so much for the support. As always, with a $25 super, they say, thank you, Alex, Max, Julia, Sawyer, Jack, and anyone else I missed calling out. Jay. We should call out Jay because Jay is operating the stream, and I forgot to mention him at the beginning of the stream. So, also Jay. They say, looking forward to the coverage. Thank you, Bideford. Austin Skirvin, thanks for the super chat. They say, Fram2 hype. Also, how's the new intro going, Yak? Oh my gosh, Austin, it's going. Is the answer. S. Dender 3, thank you for the support. They say big thanks to the NSF team for the incredible coverage. Been following since the Hopper days 6 years ago, and I've loved every moment. Excited to watch you cover the Moon and Mars operations ahead. Boy, howdy, we're excited to cover that. That's going to be awesome. Well, thank you all so much. I don't know, you want to do some questions, Alex? Do you like doing questions?
Yeah, sure. I was actually talking in the back channel about a thing. Oh yeah, hang on. I'm seeing some cars there because one of the things that I was sort of looking for is that it is around this time. Yeah, it is around this time that the crew should be arriving. Are they like? I'm seeing some cars there. I'm trying to pay attention at the base of the transporter director. I see sort of like two. Why
So
dots?
if you're used to NASA crewed missions, you are used to the astronauts coming out of a building and then getting in Teslas and then driving to the pad. But that's not what happens here, right? They suit up basically at the pad next to the horizontal integration facility and then drive up the ramp to the rocket. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if we can pull up the Google Earth screenshot that I made before the stream, but essentially, like the Falcon support building, which is the building, the name of the building that they suit up for these private missions, it's like
Right.
a few hundred meters away from the launch ramp. It's like right next to there. It is. So it's that building, and then you just have to drive out like what 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes to the pad, right? But you still have to drive up the ramp, and so
Right.
that's one of the things that I was sort of talking about in the back channel. I was like, have we seen them? Because I don't see anything. Like I was trying to see if I could see any of the astronauts or anything. I think I saw one of the Teslas. Maybe I have no idea. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that because of course, if that doesn't happen around this time of the countdown, which is when we should expect that, then maybe we're talking about another T0 for this mission. But pending official confirmation, we'll still stick to the first T0 of this mission. They have 4 opportunities, by the way, so
Right.
plenty of time.
I don't necessarily I wouldn't expect them to drive up in a Econoline style van. I would expect Teslas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they were using the Teslas. In fact, it says Fram2 go on the plates. You know how they
Nice,
usually
yeah.
have these plates things, right? And yeah.
Yeah, always fun figuring out what vanity plate the vehicles are going to use. All right, well, we'll keep our eyes on the vehicles there at the base of the pad. And in the meantime, Alex, while we're waiting to see what happens next, and I believe Sawyer is taking cover for a Phase 2 lightning warning now.
Yeah, for Sawyer.
Hopefully Max is as well. Let's do some questions, perhaps.
Yeah, let's do it.
Steven is asking, how do you deorbit from a polar orbit? Where are they going to splash down? I believe this one's splashing down in the Pacific, right?
Yeah, this is another first on this mission. So they're going to be launching hopefully in 2 hours, 46 minutes, right? They're going to be spending in orbit around 3.5 days, not minutes, like I said on the previous stream. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I said 3.5 minutes. I was like, what? No, 3.5 days, right, in orbit, in that polar orbit. And then they're going to be coming down to a splashdown off the coast of California. There are, I think, up to 6 different splashdown areas that they can go to. And some of them are a little bit closer to the coast. A few others are a little bit further away, depending on the weather in certain areas and things like that. I imagine that they probably prefer the ones that are closer to shore, so that they can return back to actually terra firma a lot faster and things like that. But that's more or less one of the things that we're looking for on this mission. It's that splashdown off the coast of California. As to how you deorbit, just like any other deorbit from a low Earth orbit, just wait for your orbit to actually intersect the location, the rough location where you're going to be coming down. They have the opportunity, because of orbital mechanics, to tweak a little bit that by modifying a little bit the orbit here and there, just lowering their altitude a few orbits beforehand, for example, might shift a little bit the splashdown location. Then also Dragon has the ability to steer itself a little bit as it comes back down. It has a little bit of lift, right? And so it can use that to get that splashdown location a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize capsules have, or they can have, a lift vector. That you can offset the center of mass from the center of lift, and then depending on how the capsule is oriented or rotated, you get a little bit of lift in a certain direction, and then you can use that to steer the capsule to some extent on the way in. It's something I did not know for a long time. It's actually really interesting. Let's see. That was a good question, though, Steven. Keep them coming. Calmly by Nature is asking, why fly south and not north? because you don't want to fly over land.
There's
This
a lot
mission
of
has to-
people to the north.
Right. We're going to talk about the trajectory in a little bit, but yeah, this mission has to do a little bit of a dogleg to hit the southern trajectory it's going to. But yeah, don't want to fly over populated areas like the eastern seaboard in general.
Yeah, and it's also part of the whole calculation. Like, it's not just even you overfly land, but it's also like how many people are in that land that you overfly, right? Because they still
Right.
overfly land when they fly south. They fly over Cuba and they fly over the Panama area, right?
Right.
But the areas like the way the trajectory is calculated, it's such that they overfly the least populated areas, right? And so the overall risk to the population, if there were to be any issue with Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon, then it's a lot lower, right? So they have to there's like a whole calculation there baked in to the risk of populated areas downrange.
Yeah, I mean that just makes sense. Like flying over a very sparsely populated area versus flying over a major metropolitan area are two very different things and should be considered as such.
Yep.
Neat. We have a question. We have a question for Sawyer. I don't know if we have Sawyer back yet. Sawyer, are you back yet?
I hope I am.
Oh, I can hear you okay. Chat, do you hear Sawyer okay?
I hope I'm seeing the 5x5s.
All right, well, Sawyer, we have a question here from someone named D-Pod Dolphin Productions, whoever on earth that is.
It's a terrible username.
You said it, not me. They're asking, have you met any of the Fram2 astronauts yet?
I'm ashamed to admit, no, I have not met any members of this crew. Of the 110 astronauts I've met none of them. But I would love to meet any of them.
You've counted the astronauts?
I have a list.
Oh my goodness.
Is it a
Sawyer
spreadsheet?
flex.
No, it's just a list, but it is color-coded.
That is a Sawyer flex.
Do you also have like coordinates where you met those people in the spreadsheet?
No, but it is sorted into astronaut, cosmonaut, moon orbiter, moonwalker, private, all of those.
Oh, okay. So Moonwalker too. Okay.
Yeah, that's 6 of the 12.
All right, you two. Let's.
Regardless, no, but this crew is ridiculously well qualified based off of their polar studies. So I'm excited to hear their stories when they come back and would be honored to meet any of them and discuss their mission.
Absolutely. Anybody that's willing to strap themselves to a rocket has my utmost respect.
Offers open, Jack. You and I interview them again after they come back, like we did with Jared.
I'm in. I can't wait to hear more and see more from this mission. I can't wait for it to get in the air here shortly in just about 2 hours and 40 minutes. But let's do some more questions in the meantime. How about that? You're safe, right, Sawyer? You're good to go. You're protected from the weather as you should be, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm safely inside my car, all protected up. There is a phase 2 lightning warning, which means lightning is around the area and visible, and everyone should seek shelter. So that's what I've done as I watch the lightning roll by. Maybe we'll get some of it on our cameras near the VAB in a little bit, but I am safe where I am, and you'll know when it starts raining and or hailing based off of the sounds of the roof of my car.
Noted. All right, well, let's keep plowing through some questions here. I'm glad you are safe, good buddy. We already hit on this kind of a little bit, but Alex, you can hit this one again. LTRM Crew is asking, how long is the mission supposed to last?
Right now, it's planned for 3.5 days. However, they can maybe, wait another day or so. They don't want to, though. So for today, they don't only have to look at the launch weather and even the aboard weather downrange, but also the splashdown weather, because this mission is not going to the ISS. So once it launches, it's all dependent on the resources that are on Crew Dragon. And Crew Dragon cannot stay for too long in orbit by its own, right? When it's stuck to the ISS, it can last there for like 8 months. It's okay in that sense, right? But by its own, there's only like maybe a week or so. And so they want to make sure that if they launch, they are able to return nominally to that western coast splashdown sites. And so that's one of the things that goes also into the sort of duration of the mission. And so one of those things is, for now, is 3.5 days, depending on the weather, right? Again, they don't want to extend that, but if it needs to be extended, maybe it gets extended up to 5 days. It's also sort of baked into the plan. They could, in theory, go up to 5 days.
All
And it's
right.
worth noting that this is not like Butch and Sunny, where they say it's an 8 or 9 day mission and it becomes 9 months. Crew Dragon itself is only capable of free floating on its own without being docked to another vessel like the ISS for a set amount of time for less than a week.
Yeah.
So that's part of why the weather is so crucial, not just at the launch site, but that the splashdown weather is good so that they don't push Dragon past what it can do.
Makes sense. Look at that cloud. Jeez.
Yeah, it's lovely looking. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully it seems like it's moving pretty fast. Hopefully it just gets out of the way and we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's gnarly, though. Florida weather, man. All right, let's keep rolling. Mikhail's asking about the radiation dose versus an ISS orbit or Polaris Dawn. Do we know how high of an orbit they're going?
I believe they were targeting somewhere around 400 to 450 kilometers up.
Correct.
It's not going to be too high up. However, it is true, though, that in the polar regions, the magnetosphere sort of dips a little bit further down, right? And so it is true that there's some higher radiation potential there. But other than that, it's probably less than Polaris Dawn, because on Polaris Dawn, they on purpose actually went into a higher radiation environment, right, to be able to test that out. But probably higher than an ISS mission, because the ISS, it's a little bit lower inclination and things like that. So I will say, just because of that, it's probably going to be in between both missions in terms of the radiation environment.
Interesting. That's one of those things that people always bring up when it comes to spaceflight. Like, oh, doesn't it, give you a whole huge dose of radiation? It's like, it's not that bad, especially if you're not hanging out in the Van Allen radiation belts.
Yeah.
Demian is asking, is this the first Dragon that's supposed to splash down on the West Coast? What site? Alex, you want to take that one?
Yeah, indeed. It's the first one to be landing off
First
the coast
Crew
of...
Dragon.
First Crew Dragon, exactly. Because Dragon 1 used to land offshore from the West Coast. But, for Dragon 2 and also Crew Dragon, it is the first time off the coast of California. There are 3 splashdown sites closer to the shore. One is a little bit like off the coast of Oxnard, and like in between Long Beach and Oxnard. Then there are 2 off the coast of San Diego and Tijuana. And then there's another 4 further downrange, like way further downrange, sort of like off the coast of Baja California, and even like really, really far downrange in terms of where those other 2 locations. So it's all down to those 6 different splashdown sites. 7 actually. I was doing the math wrong. 3, 2, and 2. That's 7. Yeah, and so it's a little bit depending on whether the weather is good on one side or the other. We're seeing that horrible weather right now at the Cape. I want to remind people, this mission is not like the ISS missions. The ISS missions, they need to hit one single launch time, and if they don't hit that one, it's a scrap for the day. This one, however, has 4 different launch opportunities. So the first one is at 9:46 p.m. Eastern. The second one is at 11:20 p.m. Eastern. Then we go all the way to 12:53 a.m. Eastern, and the last one is at 2:26 a.m. Eastern. So they have another 3 opportunities way later down the day into the evening and early morning. So don't be afraid if you see those clouds and you're like, it's gonna scrub. They have the chance of being able to, get into better weather later down the day. So.
Yep. Yeah, very good point to bring up, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, I said the word, but let's be honest, we shouldn't be afraid of saying the word.
I'm not even going to acknowledge
If it happens, it's your fault. Then I don't want it being blamed on me because it's been a lot blamed on me.
I don't even like that we talking about it. Let's move on.
People were saying that in the chat, so I wanted to clear it out. Chat is at fault. There we go.
So, in a similar vein to this capsule having or going to be splashing down in the Pacific, the dude is asking, will this be re-entering close enough to Northern California to see a re-entry streak? Or anywhere in California for that matter. It might put on quite a show depending on how it comes in. I mean, it is, ooh, look at the lightning. It is coming in from a 90-degree orbit, so I'm inclined to believe, haha, see what I did there?
Nice.
That it might actually be visible for quite a large portion of the coast, but I don't actually know that.
At least judging from these splashdown locations, it kind of looks like it's coming from the south up, and it makes sense, right? Because if they are one of the what?
No, that makes sense. Then so maybe it would not be visible.
Oh, yeah, because one of the reasons why they're changing from the east coast to the west coast is because now they're doing the orbit burn with a trunk attached. So before they jettisoned the trunk in orbit, and then they did the deorbit burn with a capsule alone instead of capsule and trunk. So now they're doing capsule and trunk deorbit, right? And then the trunk is jettisoned, and then the capsule reorients and does its reentry. And so the trunk just reenters also in a very similar trajectory. It just, because the capsule has its own lift, it can travel a little further downrange. So the trunk, you can imagine, it's going to be falling a little bit behind, and so it's going to be trailing, right? And so you need a mass of water to be able to drop that trunk. So if you come from the north, the trunk will be landing, I don't know, in San Francisco or something like that. You don't want that. You kind of want to come from the south and be able to land there, right? But yeah,
that makes sense. Neat. Well, if you are, I guess somewhere, I would assume Southern California is where you're going to need to be, or maybe somewhere in Mexico. You might be able to see it. I don't know. This is the first time it's happening, so we're kind of in a unknown territory. All right, next question. Bonzo on FMB is asking, why does this mission seem so important? Because they are overflying the poles from a great distance when there have been many people to just fly over the poles in an airplane. I mean, for one, it's just never been done. We haven't had humans fly in a 90-degree inclined orbit. What was the previous most inclined orbit? Like 60-something degrees? 68?
65.
By
65?
Vostok 6, way back in the 60s.
Yeah. And from the US, it was STS-36 to a 62-degree inclination orbit.
Coming up soon on a shuttle Sunday.
Yep, that's true. It's coming soon.
Sawyer, how are you so good at this?
Because that's my job.
Hey, there you can see the trajectory on the left side of the screen there, 90 degrees. And as you can see, as Alex was saying earlier, it is overflying like the little isthmus there of Panama. And yeah, pretty neat.
But if we're talking about why this is important, because I've been asked by a couple people that hang on, why are we flying over the poles? We've done it in airplanes. We have people that are literally stationed on the poles for researchers months at a time, like an ISS day. I mean, this is something very unique. Sure, we've had satellites fly overhead, but to have people fly overhead, that's like we've had, rovers on Mars, but we still want to send people there. We want to get the hands on the ground. We'll get more information from a human with their eyes and their experiences than we will from just robots and from just data. This is something that's never been done, so there's a lot we can do. There's a lot of research that can be done, and not just the fact of like the Steve you were talking about, which is similar to the aurora that we see in the poles, but a lot of the science that can be done. All of the orbits we've done, again, are to an equatorial style inclination, shall we say, below 60 degrees for the most part. This is brand new. What are the effects on the human body up there? Are there any differences? This mission is also bringing up the first ever portable X-ray machine into space. What can we learn from that? They're trying to grow mushrooms in space. how will they grow? This is a chance to do firsts for the poles, and while they're there, do some other scientific firsts on orbit.
Yeah, I mean, all of the different just biological science you can do on human beings' bodies, whether it's that first X-ray that they're going to try and accomplish, or whether it's the I think they're going to do an MRI once they get back to look at how the low gravity environment affected their brain anatomy, like all kinds of cool stuff. That alone is really neat. In addition to the fact that the trajectory is really neat.
There's literally an experiment that it seems so crazy and so rare, the fact that we don't have a lot of information on women who have flown into orbital spaceflight, because there haven't been that many women who have flown on
Right.
orbital space flights. They're doing a test on women's health. They're literally going to urinate on these special strips throughout the mission as a way to test their hormone levels.
I have
that's
I
really
have another thing that they're doing, but it's not in that orbit. It's when they come back.
What are they doing?
They're just leaving the capsule without assistance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're
which I
testing
think-
their ability to leave the capsule without assistance.
Yeah.
But one thing
That's really neat.
One thing they do need assistance with is entering the pad, which the theory should be happening now-ish, but we haven't seen anything.
That phase 2 lightning warning is still in effect, right?
Absolutely, yes. As the rain's coming down now, the phase 2 lightning warning is in effect, which means everyone basically stops what they're doing, shelters in place, and stay away from high, tall metallic structures like a rocket.
So, can they roll out during a phase 2?
No.
All right.
That's a no from that. Whether they can do it in a phase 1, that I'm not sure of the answer, which is a lightning warning around the Cape. But for the phase 2 lightning watch, which is what we're in right now, that is everyone stay in place, basically.
Got it. But yeah, just to wrap that question up, there's all kinds of cool stuff happening on this mission, which is why we're all taking it seriously. I mean, in addition, it's humans launching into space. We take that sort of thing very seriously.
There's so many more experiments that I want to talk about, but I'll save those for later in the broadcast.
Good deal. Yeah, the diabetes one's pretty cool. And I'm glad you brought up the hormone one. All right. Well, as we continue to watch this not so great cloud or clouds roll through KSC, hopefully we get some more information regarding the weather soon, and hopefully this cloud just gets out of the way. But Alex, what did you want to hit?
Oh, it's because we're explaining the whole deal of like where they're coming from for the splashdown. Like they come from the south and things like that. People were confused because we showed the launch trajectory, right? And we showed that they're going south, and so they were saying, "Hang on, if they're launching south, how are they going to be coming to California on the other coast from the south?" And the whole reason is because they go into an orbit, and so it means that you launch south, but then this wraps around the Earth on the other side. And if you look, you can imagine it flipping to the other side of the globe. It goes from south to north. And now you imagine 3.5 days from now, the Earth has rotated and everything, and now you line up that south to north trajectory of the orbit with California. So you essentially the orbit in such a way that that south to north trajectory coincides with those splashdown sites of the coast of California. Like this is just the launch trajectory, but it continues orbiting the Earth, right? It continues looping around the Earth. And in one side, it's going to go north to south, just like here on the launch trajectory. But on the other side of the Earth, it's going to go south to north. And so here, for example, is sort of the launch trajectory. Oh, thank you, Jay. And this is the trunk splashdown area of the coast of California, Mexico, and everything. There you can see it's going south to north. It's going up to California there. That's where the trunk will be re-entering over, and then the capsule will continue, of course, to the splashdown sites closer to California. But that's what I tried to not rectify, but like clarify, because a lot of people were confused. Like, how is it that they're launching south, but they're coming up north, and how does that happen? It's because of that, because they keep circling around the Earth, and in one side it goes north to south, the other goes south to north, and that's the one that they're going to be choosing for splashdown.
Yeah, thank you. It took me a second. I actually stupidly put like my fist in front of my face and moved my finger around. Like I was like trying to visualize.
Look, I wish we had the time to do like fancy 3D graphics of how the orbit looks and everything. But unfortunately, our time and budget is very limited. But yeah, you gotta use a little bit of imagination there. I'm sorry.
No, we do what we can. Eric, thank you for the super chat. They say, hooray for Jay. Let's keep moving on and answering y'all's questions while we keep watching this weather roll through. Victoria is asking, in the case of an abort, how do they deal with the capsule and getting the astronauts out? Do they work with local authorities, or how does that work? I think they have like a team at each of the different abort locations. Is that how does that work, Alex?
For the California sites, they have Shannon ready and prepared to go. They have her at Long Beach right now and getting ready. Essentially, whenever they are ready to come back home, they're going to be able to go offshore to those splashdown locations to get ready to pick up the Crew Dragon.
Oh, I think Victoria's asking about launch aborts.
Oh, launch aborts. Well, for the East Coast, they still have the other one, which is Megan, right? That other one, they still have it there. I'm not sure if they can be quickly deployed, but they did say that if it's a bit out of reach for them, especially like beyond Panama, for example, they still have abort opportunities in that area. That will probably mean they probably need to call the military, the Coast Guard, and things like that. But they have that opportunity, that ability to call up the military in pretty much every Crew Dragon mission. It's sort of one of the things that SpaceX has because it's a crew launch provider, and they have that sort of that sort of ability at hand to be able to call up for such an emergency, essentially.
Got it. Neat.
Yeah.
Sawyer, I'll throw this one to you. River Dave's asking, how much room do they have to move around inside the Dragon? Is it like a minivan, the back of a Volkswagen? 3 days is a long road trip. I think the microgravity helps make what might seem like a small space much bigger because you can utilize the entirety of the interior of it.
Yeah,
and you've floated around inside of a 0G parabola flying plane, right? Like you kind of...
Yeah, in the plane, you're worried about bumping into people, but then you realize there is no floor and there is no ceiling. So the place that you might normally, want to put your feet down and your head up, well, you can just go the other way around. And it's just like, if you're laying out French fries or something or whatever, you can kind of flip them around and they still fit upside down. If one's a slightly different shape, whatever, or they're curved, you fit one curved inside another one if you flip-flop them. That all works just fine. I'm not saying these astronauts are French fries in a tin can here. They still have a decent amount of space. I mean, you have the seats that are in there, which are the size of them. Parts of them can be removed for comfort as they go throughout the flight as well. Parts can be cordoned off that's used for the facilities. So I'm trying to think of the comparison because I've seen the capsules. They're, I think, maybe a Volkswagen Beetle or two worth of volume, I think, but again, keeping in mind you can use a lot more of it.
Yeah. If memory serves, Jared has said, or maybe it was a different Polaris or Inspiration crew member, but I remember them talking about it a little bit, and being able to sort of have like your own space in one area of the capsule is totally a thing.
Yeah. I mean, my room is really tiny, and I look at the ceiling and everything. It's like, if I could use that, right? It's like we're bound because of gravity to just the floor, and it's like, man, if I were able to use all of the volume in my room, I will have so much room, right? Anyways,
right.
No pun intended.
You'd have even more room. All right, well, Alex, where are we at in the timeline? We still have this crazy weather rolling through. What's going on?
Yeah, you might notice that we changed the clock. It's not changed in terms of what it's counting down to, but instead of T minus, now it says NET, which stands for no earlier than. And the reason for that is that given that we have not seen the crew driving up to the rocket, right, and to the crew access arm and everything, it's probably not on track but the earliest that they could launch is that first T0 that they have listed, right? Again, they have another 3 opportunities up to 2:26 a.m. Eastern, so plenty of time tonight to go. If the weather gets worse or if it later improves and things like that, then they can probably go up to the rocket and get ready and everything. But I don't see them going up to the pad right now with how the weather is looking right now. So we've made the decision to put a NET, which again, it stands for no earlier than, because it's quite not realistic right now to imagine that they are still going for that first T0. But it's the earliest that they can go for it, right? So
Right.
no earlier
And
than,
as of
it's true.
As of right now, the press site clock is still counting down.
Mhm.
So until we get official word, that's what we're going to have our clock counting down to. But that is why we changed from a T-minus clock to an NET clock. That is intentional.
Yeah.
All
And
right, well,
and around this time we will have, like, they will have already been strapped to the seats and everything, and they will have already done comms checks and leak checks and everything of the suits, and also already be around the time of closing the hatch and everything. So yeah, like that will be going on right now if it were still on track. But I've been keeping track and looking at the base of the rocket and at the base of the tower, and I haven't seen any of those vehicles come up, those 3 Teslas. So
dang. All right, well,
and that-
we'll keep
that-
our eyes open. So go ahead,
That
Sawyer.
phase 2 lightning warning, by the way, is in effect for the entirety of the Kennedy Space Center area. I wouldn't be surprised if it also includes Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So that's every single launch pad and every single facility on base, which includes LCs 39A and B.
Yikes. Don't love that. Hopefully hopefully this weather can get out of Dodge.
Which also means, by the way, since they need to do these things well before the launch, it
Right.
probably means that it not just has to be good for launch, like the weather needs to be good for that T0, but also well beforehand, because they need to drive to the rocket, they need to fuel it and everything. And if the weather is not good for that, then it doesn't matter how good it's going to get for the launch. They cannot get all the other activities that occur beforehand, right? So
Right. I mean, they have to climb up the tower.
Mhm.
They have to call their friends and family. They have to get in and strap down. They have to close the hatch. They have to leak check the hatch. They have to do their comms checks, and then they can fill the rocket.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of steps to accomplish. Well, we'll keep watching. Hopefully, we get some official word here from SpaceX at some point. In the meantime, we'll keep hanging out and answering your questions. But you can see there, that's a lot of red on the board.
Yeah. Lightning phase 2.
Dang. Here's one from Rex Johnson. I like this question. They're asking, will this flight require more delta V, that's a change in velocity, basically more oomph, than all other flights using Earth's rotation? I mean, I'm so not qualified to answer this, but when you launch, like, let's say you launched at the equator going straight east, you get some push from the rotation of the Earth. So I think the answer to this is yes, right? I mean, maybe not a huge amount, but they're not getting that push from the Earth.
Well, you actually don't want that push, because if you get that push, then you're not on a 90-degree orbit. 90-degree orbit just means that you're going north to south. If you get a push to the east, then you're no longer, like, you're getting pushed to another inclination, right? So you're on a lower inclination.
They're going to have to cancel it out.
Exactly. You actually want to cancel it out. Like this mission, for example, if you were to launch it, I don't know, from Norway, for example, which is closer to the poles, you don't have that velocity from the Earth's rotation. So you don't have, or at least you have less of it, right? So you don't have to cancel as much of it. And you can actually get to a polar orbit a lot easier. So yeah, it's actually the other way around. It needs to fight a lot more against the Earth's rotation. Yeah.
Fascinating. I would love to look at the numbers on that.
It's less than just for the record for the performance of Falcon 9. It's less than Polaris Dawn because Polaris Dawn needed to go into a very high altitude, for example, and
Right.
this one is even including a short boost back burn of the booster, which it did not get for Polaris Dawn.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, we had a picture on just a moment ago from Julia. Thank you, Julia, for that. That looks like that's incoming towards the KSC and Cape Canaveral area right now. So, yeah. Not great. But we'll keep our eyes on it. And until we know more, we'll keep answering your questions and hanging out. We talked about radiation a little while ago. 98 Central is asking if this mission will experience higher radiation levels from going over the poles. The previous question was more about altitude. I guess this one's more about inclination. Do we have any information in that regard?
mean-
Well,
Cool, never mind.
Sawyer, go ahead. Yeah.
I didn't know who you wanted to answer that. I mean, not
for it.
necessarily. That's a part of the study will be to see what the radiation levels are. Of course, there's devices to measure that as they go. But in all honesty, this is about the same altitudes that we're used to seeing the astronauts fly through. Do we see the aurora? Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there is any more radiation there. They're not going through the super strong Van Allen radiation belts at the altitude they're flying at. So if so, it might be minimal, but I don't expect it to be much more. And if nothing else, we'll know after they come back as they study it.
You know, it's almost like someone should fly in this sort of orbit and do some studies to determine exactly what the numbers are. All right, let's see. Margaret is asking, when is the next launch opportunity? Alex, you were saying there's 4 separate opportunities?
Yeah, so the next one should be at 11:20 p.m. Eastern, and in fact, it's like 11:20 and 00 seconds. Because this one, the one that they're targeting is 9:46 and 50 seconds p.m. Eastern. But the next one is 11:20 00 seconds p.m. Eastern, and there's another one at 12:53 and 10 a.m. and then 2:26 and 20 seconds a.m. Eastern. So 3 more opportunities all the way again until 2 a.m. So yeah.
There you go. Sawyer, I'll throw this one at you. Jayway is asking, do Dragon capsules have a launch escape system?
They absolutely do, yes. They have special thrusters that are underneath them called Super Dracos. And in the event of something goes wrong, once the flight termination system is armed, they can fire at any point as long as they are active. So that includes on the launch pad, mid-air, up until a certain point in the flight where you'll hear them say FTS is safe. At which point it will move them away as quickly and safely as possible, deploy the parachutes, and they will splash down in one of the designated abort areas with a little help from those Draco thrusters to steer if needed. They did this once during the in-flight abort test, of which Das, John Galloway here at NSF, captured some amazing video of the explosion. Jack, I know you and I are not bitter at all about the cloud that was right in the way at the press site when that actually happened, but...
On my deathbed. On my deathbed, with my last breath of air, I am going to just squeak out very quietly to whoever might be in the room, hopefully somebody. I regret SN11, IFA, and Insight.
But yes, you'll hear them call out just before fueling in about 45 minutes that the FTS will be armed. So you can hear that call out as they go through the count.
Alrighty.
Yeah, and one of the things of this mission as well, which is sort of unique, is that launch escape system, those Super Dracos, unlike all of the other Crew Dragon missions, they all of those previous missions they launched to the northeast, same trajectory. Even Polaris Dawn, for example, which was another free flyer mission, and Inspiration 4, they both used the same trajectory that you will use and sort of launch inclination that you will use for an ISS mission, because it shared the same abort locations. For Fram2, however, they need to be able to abort and avoid Cuba, for example, or even the Panama area, right? That Central America area that they overfly. if they were to abort at those locations, they have the opportunity to be even capable of firing back and boosting back that capsule instead of pushing forward. So depending on what is the condition of the abort location and things like that, they have that capability. They do have a similar capability with the other ISS bound missions or like similar trajectories, right? Like Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn, because when you go northeast out of the Cape, you have a lot of the eastern seaboard of the United States and even up to Newfoundland in Canada. But then you have a big stretch of just open waters until you get to Shannon, Ireland. And so one of the other things that they do with Crew Dragon on those missions as well is also the ability of boosting back if they don't want to land, like, if for whatever reason they abort at a point where
Right.
they unfortunately have their trajectory going to that area. They're like, nope. The capsule can turn around and fire their thrusters to avoid that area. Yeah,
That's cool.
like literally that, or
That's
boost
really cool.
to Shannon.
Neat. All right. Well, continuing to watch the weather here. KSC clock still continuing to count down there at the press site. So you're telling me there's a chance?
That was New Glenn.
Oh, I'm excited for the next New Glenn. Okay, here's another one from I can talk. Creative Bites TB. They're asking, will there be different forces on the craft as it orbits over the poles? My gut is no. Maybe like during the actual ascent phase? There's different forces depending on how the vehicle has to dogleg and turn. But once they're in orbit, it's just orbit, right? I mean, Sawyer, does that sound wrong to you? Question mark? My voice is getting higher. I don't know why.
I was just waiting to see how high it goes. I mean, in terms of once you're in orbit, whether you're at the poles, whether you're towards the equator, you still have that same atmospheric drag to deal with. So it's not like that's going to disappear or lessen or worsen. That's kind of a thing there. I don't know the actual answer, though. Again, this is something I'm sure they've studied before the launch. I'm sure this is something they will study during the mission on how well Dragon behaves. But since this is a first flight, I don't know the actual answer. Anything would be speculation.
I mean, other
Yeah,
than
fair.
gravity, right?
Maybe different heating, because it's
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I would love to know more.
Yeah.
Todd
It's the same
Johnson
gravity.
gifting 20 red team memberships. Thank you, Todd. It's the same gravity, Alex? Really?
I mean, if you get very picky, it's not the same because of the flatness of the poles and things like that. Like it's not a perfect sphere. The Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's actually like an oblate spheroid and things like that, and all that. I mean, as a will-be physicist, I guess I should know about this very well, but I don't really get picky for the purposes of these streams. That's in college. That's not here.
Yeah, that's fair.
For the general public.
We were talking about abort stuff and the launch escape system. Nemo's Odyssey is asking, most rockets have an abort tower attached. Why doesn't Dragon? It's about reusability, right, Sawyer? You don't want to ditch a launch escape tower every launch. You want to kind of integrate that into the spacecraft itself so you don't have to throw stuff away. Am I way off base there, or is that kind of right?
No, that's kind of right. I mean, it's literally why SpaceX is aiming for as much reusability as possible. That's why all of these capsules, unlike the ones from the older days from Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, so on, even Soyuz, those capsules aren't reused. So if your escape system is a tower on the top or something towards the bottom of the rocket, it's no big deal. The capsule goes away and it's never used again. SpaceX, with the ability to reuse the capsule, obviously you want an abort system that can then be reused and not have to be completely changed out or reattached every single time, because that defeats the purpose of reusability. So if you can, why not attach it to your rocket and to your capsule?
That being
That's super
said,
neat. Everything in spaceflight and rocketry is a series of trade-offs, and there are ways in which, once you have eyes that can see, to put it a weird way, you can see how SpaceX, just looking at one of their rockets, has prioritized reusability. Sorry, Alex, I steamrolled you. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, that being said, you can still have a non-abort tower method for aborting your spacecraft, and it can be expendable. And I can point out one other spacecraft that has that, which is Starliner. Starliner also doesn't use an abort tower. For example, it just uses pushers on the service module. The service module has like this big four, like really high thrust engines that it fires in order to be able to escape in flight. And we've seen that actually being tested on the pad at White Sands, for example. And like, yeah, it's also hypergolic. That's one of the other things as well. Like, I guess you can have the abort system when it is using hypergolics, for example, like it is for Starliner and also for Crew Dragon. You can use the same propulsion systems independently, right? Like you can use it for launch escape, or you can use it for maneuvering in space with your regular thrusters and things like that. So it's also a nice thing to have, to be able to use your launch escape system is part of your service module, and you can use that remaining propellant also to be able to be used that on orbit, right? Like and you save mass overall.
I like saving mass. It's kind of important. You know what else is important? Science. You guys want to talk a little bit about some of the experiments they're doing? Sawyer, Alex, does that sound good to you?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I don't even know where to start, because there's a lot of experiments happening here. But Sawyer, I know you're a fan of expanding the realm of human spaceflight and what we know about what happens to the human body in space. We already mentioned the hormone study, but we didn't talk about the diabetes study.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that they point out when they announce the missions, the fact that when it comes to getting more people into space and access to space for everyone, there are a lot of people on this planet that have diabetes, whether that be, whatever type it may be, type 1, type 2. So they are doing studies to see how insulin and all of those processes work while you're actually in orbit. And they're checking out glucose regulation. So basically, the goal is to check the fluids that shift and see if they may affect the accuracy of continuous glucose monitors as a way to validate the ability to use them as you're in long duration spaceflight and allow people with diabetes to spend a lot of time in space finally.
Really neat. Is there any other of the scientific objectives of this flight that sort of speak to you?
I mean, I have a bunch here that I highlighted. There's one that's really cool. That's going to be about brain mapping, and as you mentioned, the brain MRIs. So basically, they're going to take a look at the way that the brain behaves once you're up in space. So even for these short duration space flights, we obviously know the long duration, but what about the short duration ones? Does it affect your mental capacity? Does it change some of your biomarkers? All of these different things that when you need to be on the edge of your toes and dealing with all of these cutting edge experiments and potential emergencies, how well is your brain actually functioning? So they'll be checking that. They'll be checking cognition. There's another interesting one. Obviously, one of the biggest issues is space adaptation sickness, which is basically space motion sickness. As we learned, 2 of the 4 crew members from Polaris Dawn, they did not say which 2, so props to them. 2 of the 4 of them experience space sickness, which, you don't want to be continually losing your lunch. They do have injections that they can give you to help you not lose your lunch, but it makes you exhausted and lowers your ability to perform your functions in space for a couple of hours. So they're trying to do more studies on that. What can they do to prevent it? Who gets motion sickness and all of that. So there's a lot of interesting experiments with the neural system between the brain and the balance and vestibular.
Yeah, space sickness is one of those things where hopefully we can, as more and more people fly, figure out better solutions.
Here's another interesting one too. If you think about it, if you saw the press conference with Butch and Sunny returning and talking about their mission, and all the questions asked about how their body behaves during the long duration space flight, and everything that has to be done to prevent all of the bone density loss and the muscle loss, no one's really looked into that very much for these short duration missions, especially in a capsule the size of a Crew Dragon. Can you actually do exercise? It may be the minimum of all minimums, is basically what they said, but what is the minimum viable exercise that could be done? So they're going to be testing some of the things that they use aboard the ISS, like resistance exercises in place to see, hey, with a capsule this small, will there be issues with the force from doing the exercises? Will there be enough room? And is it enough to make a difference in the human body for even 5 days in space?
Awesome. What else you got?
Ooh, I mean, one of the cool ones that I've been loving is the idea that they want to grow mushrooms in space. And we've seen on the ISS, they have their experiments they do there. They've grown lettuce. We've seen them grow peppers, things like that. But you're on a short duration mission here. What can you grow in a short duration? Well, it turns out
Do
oyster
mushrooms grow that fast?
Apparently, they may not grow completely in that time, but the growth is noticeable enough every day that they're going to try it and see, hey, maybe this might be a food of the future option. If you need something grown in microgravity and you need it grown quick, well, let's try oyster mushrooms. They're good in vitamin D, they've got a whole bunch of nutrients, and depending on who you are, they're either delicious or the worst thing you've ever put in your mouth. But they're going to test it and see.
Very neat. I mean, that's one of those things we're going to have to be able to do at some point, is make more food on orbit and in space, especially if we're going to do things like, I don't know, populate the moon and Mars. Alex,
Yeah.
you have discovered something while Sawyer and I were nerding out on science. Have you not?
Yeah. Yeah, because we saw one of the bands leaving the pad. They are not entirely gone. It was just one. And I was thinking, hang on. It will make sense for at least one of them to leave by now if they are still on track for a T0 at the beginning, right? Like that first T0. And so I'd make sure, like, hang on. I'm going to go back and actually look carefully at the footage of 39A and see if the 3 cards, the 3 Teslas arrived at the pad. And indeed they arrive, and I didn't see it because we were a little bit cropped on our view as we were doing the biographies of the crew. So it turns out that that was sort of a coincidence that we're doing that as they were driving to the pad. And they indeed went to the pad at the T-minus 3 hour mark. Oh, again, minutes. The T-minus 3 hour mark, they went to the pad, and they were indeed around the pad and everything. We're pulling the replay of that so that, people can, not just be like, oh, trust us and things like that. Like, we can show you that they actually went to the pad.
Trust us, bro. No, that is a good catch,
every
though.
3 minutes.
That is a good catch, though, Alex.
Not 3
So,
minutes.
3 days. No, I didn't tune into that stream earlier today, so now I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah,
so I can hear everybody's reaction.
Yeah, that was so much shame that I had, because I kept saying minutes. I don't even know why. Like there was one that was hours and I said minutes, and then there was another one that I said that I was going to say days and I said minutes.
It happens.
I have the minutes in my brain.
Some people have said far worse things on stream. Some people even on this stream with you right now, so it's fine.
Yeah, how's the methane in the flare?
It shouldn't be there. Is the takeaway.
At least this isn't a Block 2 vehicle.
That's true. Yeah, thanks.
For real, on God.
Oh, I'll wait for Jay to bring that up.
There we go.
have a bit of news. Oh, joy. Good news, in fact. But while we wait for that, really quickly, Ethereal Swordsman's asking, because we were talking about abort motors and launch escape systems and all that good stuff. Ethereal Swordsman's asking, couldn't you use your launch escape system motors to slow yourself down and make reentry easier, at least a little? Well, fun fact, there is a landing abort mode that you can use the Dracos in case the parachutes fail. That is a recent development with Dragon as well. So, yes.
This is from the
This is the
mission
news.
commander.
This is the news. Oh man,
The side hatch is
that
closed.
is so cool.
He tweeted that from Dragon.
From inside Dragon with the hatch closed.
I believe this is the first. From my understanding, this is the first time that we've gotten live tweets from inside the capsule on a launch day.
That's really cool.
Okay, on launch day. Because I was going to say, wait, hang on. We had Polaris Dawn with a placer and everything.
Well, yeah,
Okay, this is-
in orbit is
yeah.
one thing, but on the ground before launch, tweeting from inside the capsule on the pad, that is a first. Even when shuttle was flying, they never did it on the ground. In fact, it took till STS-125 to send the first tweet from space, but that's besides the point.
I guess.
Well, this is really good. They're in the spacecraft. The hatch is closed.
Yeah. I guess since they are attached to the ground and like all the ground umbilicals and everything, they have that connectivity. Because they cannot get any Starlink right now, just for the record. Because that Starlink placer is on the trunk, and as you can see, the trunk is connected to the second stage. And for those that might not see what I'm trying to say, the placer is pointed away at the open end of the trunk. It's not like on the outside, on the radiator side or the solar panel side. No, it's on the tube, the interior of the tube, and pointing down in this configuration. So it will be pointed down to the second stage. And I don't think there's a Starlink satellite on top of the second stage. At least not this one. Maybe the one from before, from the other launch that we just streamed the other day. A few hours ago. Oh my gosh.
What is time?
What is time? Yeah, right?
Don't ask Alex what it is.
Yeah, don't. Speaking of time, earlier, this is the shot we were talking about a few moments ago, earlier of the crew arriving at the pad. We were doing the crew bios at the time, at the start of the stream, and that's why we were focused on doing that. We didn't see the crews rolling up to the pad, but there they are, arriving earlier. You can see it's a replay because it says replay. But yeah, there they are. They're in the capsule. Hopefully we get some more tweets from Chun Wang. That is really neat. Like, what a flashcraft. Speaking of, we have Pop Trepica asking, who is funding this mission? That is who? The person that tweeted that video, Chun Wang. All right. Well, the clock is continuing to tick down. Are we thinking they've got some time for this weather to clear? And I mean, they're in the spacecraft. That's a good thing. I'm way more optimistic right now than I was a little while ago.
I mean, obviously the rain is not fantastic, but it is moving through at a decent pace here. So there's a chance it'll clear up. That Phase 1 lightning warning is expected to expire at 10 p.m., but it can expire earlier or extend later. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it will go until 10 and ruin any chance at the first T0. So there's still a chance. We shall see.
Someone mentioned, by the way, that Twitter was not around when the shuttle was flying. They coexisted for more than 5 years, by the way. It's been that long that social media site has been around. Just saying.
I'm so old.
Mike
You could even do
Massimino was the first
MySpace.
one.
Yeah,
Mike Massimino
true.
was the first one to tweet from space, and he answered people's questions on the ground. And Sawyer Flex, he answered my question.
Of course. I feel like I should have seen that coming, but I didn't. But I should have. All right, let's keep rolling through. Y'all, if you have any questions, don't forget, you can ask them in chat. Just type at NASA Spaceflight and then type your question out. And we'll see it pop up in some software we have running in the background. Olibo is asking, how are the opportunities for them to tweet from orbit? Well, if you remember us talking about that Starlink placer system, hopefully they have really good bandwidth and they're able to share exactly as much as they want to. And hopefully that's a lot. Alex, were you saying it gets a gigabit? Like gigabit speeds?
Yeah, over a gigabit speed. Keep in mind, so, this is probably worth reminding. When they use Starlink, for example, on Starship, or when you use it on the ground, you use the terminal, the phased array antenna. When they're
Right.
using it on this mission and on Paris Dawn, what they're using is the laser links. So instead of connecting to the Starlink satellites through the regular antennas, they connect
Right.
through the laser links, and the laser links have a lot more bandwidth. And I'm talking about up to 10 gigabit bandwidth between the
Right.
satellites. Now,
It's almost
Dragon,
like the Dragon becomes its own. Well, it's not its own Starlink satellite because it's not obviously
kinda,
communicating with the ground in that way. But in terms of from a laser perspective, yeah, it just jacks into the network with lasers. That's really cool.
yeah, lasers in space.
Space
But
lasers. Let's see. More questions. Tom Lewis is asking, when will fueling finish? Well, it hasn't started yet. It takes about 45 minutes, and it finishes about, like 2 minutes before launch?
Yeah.
Right, Alex?
Yeah, we're still well more than an hour until, even until the crew access arm retracts. Like that's like 45 minutes before the launch. So we're a little bit away from that. One of the things that so in between now and that time, for example, they're going to be checking out some of the systems on Dragon and on Falcon 9 and everything. Around the T-1 hour point in the count, they do sort of like a weather check and a weather briefing to make sure that everything is good to go. And then they start all of the go-no-go polls and everything to proceed to the propellant load sequence. And so that's going to be probably the next thing to keep an eye on, because maybe if things are not looking good, then they may say, okay, let's move a little bit into the window. Again, they have multiple opportunities for this launch, right? But for the meantime, we're still looking to that first T0, 9:46 p.m. So we'll see.
We will see. I mean, it would be nice if they hit the first window.
Yeah.
All of us, I think, would absolutely love that.
Exactly.
Let's do some more questions. Well, first off, Ricky Nixon is saying, thanks, guys. Got my Flight 8 patch yesterday. Yes, the Flight 8 patches are shipping. We're glad you got yours. Zach is asking, what are the best crew socials to follow for updates? Well, of course, you can follow NSF on any of your socials of choice. But as we were showing earlier, Chun Wang has been super transparent in the whole lead up to launch on X. So that's probably a good follow as well as anyone else on the crew there.
Yes, he's been great. I mean, he posted video of the earlier Starlink 6-80 launch as they were driving out. Of course, tweeting some of our articles and videos, which is awesome. My favorite is he created a launch delay bingo. So some of them include the obvious technical issues, bad weather. Others include launch elevator gets stuck, alligator eats ground staff, surprise
would be bad.
Expos declaring new launch order, VIP guest moons on stream, chaos ensues. Eric turns out to be pregnant, and somebody slips on the launch tower.
Always love a good bingo card like that. Takes me back to our early tank watching streams where we would do that. Good stuff. Mike is asking, what is the reason for not launching during a lightning storm? Sawyer, I'm going to throw this one at you because I know you're going to pull out some history on us.
What, Apollo 12, you mean? Never.
Right?
For those wondering, this has happened before, where a crew is launched in a thunderstorm. Apollo 12. Shortly after launch, it was struck a couple times, actually, by lightning. And all of a sudden, it caused an issue with some of the main power buses, and they were probably seconds away from having to abort during the launch of the second moon landing mission. Thankfully, there was a very smart engineer in Mission Control in Houston named John Aaron, who recognized this and very quickly made the call SCE to aux. You may hear it in the intro. Say again, SCE to aux. The response was, "What the blank is that?" Thankfully, one of the crew members on Apollo 12 knew exactly where that switch was, flipped it, all of their electronics came back to life, and they were able to land successfully. But after that, they do not launch in lightning anymore or in any clouds that could potentially create its own lightning, which is something known as triboelectrification, for those remembering back in the early Ares 1X testing days.
Right. Yeah, the plume of the rocket itself, especially if it's like solids, which are burning basically aluminum, can act as its own lightning rod in a lot of ways. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful launching through lightning. But thank you, sir. That is a good mention of the SCE to aux call out that you can hear in the intro. That's why you train, right? You need to be able to know exactly where the button is that mission control is telling you about while launching into space and stressed out and all of that. You just need to have muscle memory. Oh, SCE to aux, I know where that is. Click, we're good. So cool.
Yeah. And that whole thing happened within a matter of about 30 seconds to a minute. The whole conversation between them on the capsule, then on the ground, in the back rooms, then getting it to the Capcom, giving it to the crews, and all of that. Obviously, there is no SCE to aux on board this capsule. A lot of the systems, in fact, on board Dragon are completely automated. The rest of it is either touchscreens, and there are very few select physical switches as well. But it's either all automated or touchscreens.
Fun fact, though, so that SCE to aux, it was sort of like a way to switch to an auxiliary system for the electrical systems and everything, because the lightning sort of tripped over that. It's sort of a way of doing a turn off and turn on kind of thing of the electrical systems, if you will, right? On Apollo. Dragon does have something similar. I remember Jared Ackerman talking about the fact that Dragon does have procedures to like shut down the computers and turn them on again and things like that. Like there are some manual procedures that they can do to do a very not exactly the same, of course, but a very similar thing of like turn off and turn on to reboot the systems and make sure that they come back and they are able to do all the things that they need to do. So obviously we don't want that to happen, but they have that possibility. Even like it's very neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comical thing. It's a joke. Like, have you tried turning it off and on again? If you've ever seen the IT Crowd, I think it's a BBC show. That's a very common phrase uttered in that show. It's a very common phrase uttered in tech support. Like, step one, turn it off, turn it on again. Kind of important to be able to do. Like, fixes it 90% of the time. The
Also,
other fix
yes, it is an absolutely brilliant show, by the way.
The other fix is you just have someone watch what you're doing, and then it'll work. Like, look, this thing isn't working. Here, let me show you. And then it works. And you're like, never mind. Drunar, thank you for the support. They say, did Jack pick yesterday's Starlink hold music? No, I didn't. But I think I'm starting to think Kevin and Jay and I have very similar tastes in music. At least in hold music.
That is a list that we have. We jokingly call it KMR FM, originally compiled by Kevin Michael Reed. But no, that was Chris A. yesterday sorting through the tunes while we sorted through the Starlink 6-80 attempt, which didn't happen yesterday, but did happen earlier this afternoon at 3:52 p.m. Eastern.
Nice. The CB is asking, is this going to be an RTLS? Want to make sure. No, it's going to land on a shortfall gravitas. Right, Alex?
Yeah, so this one is actually landing on a drone ship. In fact, in order to avoid, so this is a bit of a tricky mission because the launch trajectory, as we were sort of talking about for the previous portion of the broadcast, they're going south right into that 90-degree orbit, but they cannot go straight south from the launch site because then they will overfly like a bunch of the Cape. They will overfly things like Miami and things like that. They will overfly Sawyer's town and everything. So obviously you don't want to have that with your rocket. So they actually go at first a little bit southeast, and then the second stage does the rest of the turn to that 90-degree orbit. Now, the problem is if you go southeast out of the Cape and just, straight southeast, like sort of in the middle between east and north and south, what you end up is you're There you go. Thank you, Jay. Your rocket ends up in the Bahamas. Now, they did do a landing recently on a Starlink mission in the Bahamas, in Bahamian waters.
That was
However,
so cool.
yeah, right. But before they continue doing that, they want to make sure and do a few other environmental reviews and things like that. They want to make sure that they do more paperwork in that area before landing again in Bahamian waters. So what they're doing is they're actually doing a bit more of a dogleg now with the first stage. So it's a bit there. You can see that blue area there and the sort of red triangle at the bottom, which is sort of the area where you would expect that booster landing to happen. And they are doing a very short 30-second boost back burn in order to not land in Cuba, essentially. So, or even in Bahamian waters. And yeah, so it's a drone ship landing, but expect a boost back burn. And before anybody asks, that is not the first time. They've done this many times before. It's just a bit more rare. It's just a boost back that just shortens the downrange distance.
Neat. Super cool. So not in our TLS tonight. There you go. Ooh, do we have a picture from Julia? I think we have more good news. Look at that. Look, I see sky. I see moon.
Moon, moon, moon.
And the crowd softly chants moon, moon, moon. And the chanting becomes louder. Moon. This isn't a moon mission. It doesn't work.
Poles.
Poles. 90 degree. It just doesn't have the same ring to it. It's still really cool.
Yeah. Orbit.
Yeah, looking out the window, I'm actually apparently just down the road from where Julia took that shot. But yeah, from where I'm looking in the car, it is clearing. There is definitely visible sky on its way beyond the VAB here. What that means for downrange weather and for potential abort conditions is still up in the air. Well, it's in the air, of course, it's atmosphere. But we'll see what happens as we continue to count down here to the current T0, which is a little over an hour and a half from now.
All right. Well, good news. Thank you, Julia, for sharing that. Thank you, Sawyer, for the sit rep. More lightning. But we do have an hour and 37 to go. Abort weather notwithstanding. We'll see how it all works out. But clock still counting down. Everything's still counting down. Press site clock still counting down. So hopefully in just about an hour and 36 minutes or so here, we get these 4 Fram2 heading into space. Can I say that? Can I say Fram2?
That's literally their X account name, so why not?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's their X account name. So the person that was asking good socials to follow, probably follow that one.
Well, it's Framonauts, right? Framonauts, whatever.
Framonauts. Thank you.
Framonauts. It's close enough.
Yeah.
Skyward, thanks for becoming a Padrat member. Enjoy your member perks, and thanks for supporting the channel. Let's see. Let's do more questions. Aaron is asking, how far away does lightning need to be for fuel safely? I don't actually know the answer to that. Like, can they fuel a rocket during a phase 2?
It used to be 20 miles away with no lightning in any direction back in the day. I'm not sure if that's still the case for current space flights and for current Falcon 9 missions, but I believe that was the criteria. It was either 20 or 25 during Demo 2. So they definitely cannot in a phase 2, that's for sure. We shall see what the deal is if we go downward into a phase 1, which is just a watch as opposed to a warning.
All right. Interesting. I mean, every rocket, every launch provider, they have like different criterias, but then at the same time, KSC has their own rules and stipulations as well, so. Sawyer, this one's for you. Gunfox is asking, didn't Shuttle get hit by lightning?
Trying to recall, on the pad, there's been lightning strikes. There's some fantastic photos out there of the actual lightning hit the catenary wires off the fixed service structure, the big white thing at the top of the tower on your screen there at 39A or B. But it's happened. They go out, they would have to inspect the vehicle and make sure everything is okay, check the electronics and whatnot. But that's exactly why The four towers, or in this case, the singular white rod at the top, is there. It's got wires on it, and of course, lightning likes to strike the tall structure. So in that case, that is the tall structure. It then takes that electricity and it diverts it down these wires completely away from the rocket and grounds it. So that way, you don't hit the rocket, and instead it dissipates safely away, even if it looks like it strikes the vehicle.
Yeah, we've had some people cheekily asking in chat, what are the four towers for? But that's a question you ask for Slick 40, not for LC39A, because LC39A does not have the four towers, but it does still have a similar catenary wire system. So yeah, don't want lightning hitting a rocket. I don't know. Was there ever a shuttle that got hit by lightning in flight? I feel like there was, but I could just be making that up.
That's a Chris Bergen question, but from my memory, not that I can think of in flight.
Yeah,
On the
Greg's
ground,
son,
but I can't recall in flight.
Was
Greg's
hit
son
by
in
a
chat
bat.
is saying no. Yeah,
Does
there
that
was hit by a
count?
bat. No. Close, but no.
Uh, there's
Yeah,
been also
bats.
hits. What?
No, say there's bats, there's spiders, but I
Turkey
don't
vulture.
recall lightning.
Yeah, there was also like Falcon 9, Falcon Heavies that, while at the pad, they were hit by not the rocket itself, but like nearby, there was lightning hitting the surroundings, I guess. Even SLS. That was so cool.
Oh yeah,
when it
I don't know
happened.
if we still have it on the store, but for a while we had a print from Brady of lightning
Yeah.
striking behind SLS. Let's see. Mikey C is asking, this is for Alex. Has a Falcon 9 ever been launched at 90 degrees south? Shouldn't they test that before putting people on it? Smiley face emoji.
Yeah, it's launched already satellites to that inclination. And very similar inclinations as well. Like even transport missions, for example, they launched to 97 degrees, for example, which is a little bit higher. And they've launched those from both Vandenberg and also from East Coast, from here from Florida. Yeah, they've done all sorts of different inclinations with Falcon 9. I think the highest inclination was 130 degrees with the Eros C3 satellite a long time ago. I have to look that up, but I think that's the highest inclination. Of course, that was from Vandenberg, because there's no way they can do that from Florida.
Neat. Wait, so 97, like that would be retrograde. The other one you said,
Yeah,
like the 100.
slightly.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's on synchronous orbit. It's usually slightly retrograde. Usually 96, 97. Depends on the height of the orbit as well. That's on synchronous inclination. And so, but usually 96, 97 degrees. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, sun synchronous, so that the spacecraft is in the same spot over the Earth with the same sun position
Mhm.
every time.
Yep.
So you can get consistent imagery with the same shadows and everything, right?
Yep.
Neat.
And there are no orbits with inclinations higher than 180 degrees by convention. Because then you're looking at the other side of the orbit instead of,
Right.
like if you're counting higher than 180 degrees, you're just looking at the orbit on the other side of the globe.
Right, you're just back to zero again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Neat. Dexter84 is asking, what photo gear do they have on board? I don't actually know the answer to this. Do we know like what sort of cameras or imaging equipment is being brought up, Sawyer?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, for the Inspiration 4, I know, and I believe Polaris Dawn as well, they used iPhones for a lot of their photography and videos. They each took up a personal iPhone that they were able to use in orbit and capture all the imagery. As for this flight, given their photographic history and that you have a literal cinematographer on board, I'm guessing the cameras are going to be slightly more advanced, but they have not publicly said.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if we actually get to talk to the astronauts afterward, we should ask. More questions. Thorsten Frank is asking, why didn't we get footage from the ingress and the inside of the capsule through official channels this time? Because it's not a NASA mission. It's a private mission, right? So we're not getting that same sort of NASA red carpet, I guess you could say. Is that fair to say, Sawyer?
I think that's fair to say. Again, when NASA does their launches, you have NASA astronauts. They use NASA facilities to suit up. They use the NASA press site here. They use the NASA countdown clock. They use the NASA tracking cameras. Typically for SpaceX, when it is solely a SpaceX mission, just like there's no official feed from NASA for a Starlink, it's kind of the equivalent to NASA of a Starlink in that you do your thing, SpaceX, we have nothing to do with it. We just lease the facility to you. Obviously, this is much more important and significant than a Starlink as there are 4 human beings on board. But given that it's a private mission, they can choose how much or how little they wish to show. Thankfully, Jared Isaacman wanted to have as much publicity as possible during the Inspiration 4 launches, as well as live streaming the events of Polaris Dawn. This crew, a little more on the quiet side, choosing not to, which they're also allowed to do when you're paying undisclosed amounts of money to go to space.
I mean, I get it, right? Like, if you told me I can go to space, but I have to live stream it, I'd say, sure. If you told me I didn't have to live stream it, I would certainly live stream parts of it, but I don't think I would do like a 24/7 kind of deal, right? It's always a balance.
You don't want to be streamed while you go to the toilet? In space?
No. Can't say I do.
I mean, there are definitely times where you'll hear it even in the NASA and other mission launches. SpaceX, their core, their equivalent of Capcom, say permission to come on board. That's basically to make sure that everybody is dressed and not indecent and not using the facilities.
Yeah, makes sense. Alex, you've noticed something. I see it too. What's happening?
Yeah, one of the cars there. Oh, look at that! It's moving around, and it just disappeared from view. So there was a car sort of at the there we go. It's turning around. It's at the base of the fixed service structure, and around this time is sort of when we should expect the ground crews to leave the pad.
Right.
And I saw the car lights coming up, and I was like, ooh. And now it's moving, and it turned around. It's looking the other way from before. Maybe we'll see it drive away from the pad and
Maybe.
exiting. Yeah.
I mean, the
That's
astronauts are in the capsule. The hatch is closed, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully we're getting to the point where these crews are going to leave the pad. I see another car moving around.
Mm-hmm. We want to
And-
see them leave.
Seems like a good sign. I like
Yeah,
it.
a reminder is that the pad basically needs to be clear before they begin propellant load and before they arm the flight termination system. So everyone needs to be out of the immediate area by T-minus 45 minutes, although they typically tend to do it at about T-minus 1 hour or earlier, as it seems to be here. So it's not unusual, and that still bodes well for a possible attempt of the first T0 of the day at 9:46 p.m. Eastern.
Sawyer, I have a question for you. I
Yes,
know
Alex.
I'm not Jack, but I'm curious about this because Jay actually pointed this out in the back channel. When they leave the pad, do they drive by the press site, for example, and like drive off somewhere else? Like, because you actually, have been there, and so you probably know this better than me.
I don't recall if they do for the private missions. For missions where
Mhm.
they suit up at the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Facility, so the NASA side, they absolutely will drive by here after the crew is loaded up and in their places. I'm not
Mm.
sure where their quote-unquote safe zone is, so to speak, to keep the cars, but also to be able to come in the event of, let's just say, if they're needed.
You don't want to say the word.
Of course I don't, so...
Oh, there we go.
Good job,
Look at that.
Sawyer. Cars
They're driving
leaving.
off.
So that would be the pad clearing, right?
We can do like at Starbase when we do like pad clearing and everything. I mean, it's like
Somebody-
at Starbase and like that. Yeah.
Somebody call Adrian. Have him count the cars.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 Teslas. Look at that.
Perfect.
Yes, which, did we talk about the license plate?
We did, but that was a while ago, so fill us in, Sawyer.
Yes, in case you're wondering, the plates, they always have a fun number plate on the back, a play on the mission
Oh,
Did we lose Sawyer? I think we might have
I
lost Sawyer.
might have lost Sawyer.
Alex, fill us in on the plates. It's Fram2, right?
Yeah, it says Fram2. They have that tradition of having like a cheeky sort of license plate, right? And so some missions have a different kind of name. I think they had a whole list. Maybe I can pull that up in for the previous flights.
That was on
they
the
have, like,
actual
a list.
roadways of Cape Canaveral
Oh,
and Port Canaveral and Cocoa Beach.
Oh,
what
I think-
happened
I think-
there, Sawyer?
Oh, did I drop out for a moment?
Just briefly,
Yep.
I think we have you back now.
Oh, I was just saying that those cars were on the actual physical roads of Cape Canaveral, Port Canaveral, and Cocoa
Okay.
Beach, unlike the NASA ones, which is pretty darn cool.
I have the thing with a list. So Demo
Okay.
2 was ISS bound. Crew 1 was later Earth. Crew 2 rescue, reuse, reduce, recycle. Crew 3 send it with a 3 on the E. Crew 4 go for launch. Crew 5 blast off with the 5 for an S. Crew 6 crew dragon, and like the 6 is for Agon, I guess. And then Crew 7 is bye. I don't understand that one. Then Crew 8 was Yay Space with an 8 for Ace. And then Crew 9, ready for it. And then Crew 10 was liftoff with the TO, the 10. So yeah, they always have those things. And of course, this one is Fram2, so it's Fram2 Go. They have a cheeky name sort of related with the crew mission name.
Nice.
Yep. And by the way, the reduce, reuse, recycle was the actual recycling symbol, and bye is 7 letters long. BY, and then 5 was that 5 E's. I'm not good at math, so yes, it was
Yeah.
actually 7 characters long for Crew 7.
Oh, I see Scott Manley in chat.
Hey, Scott, what's up?
Hello.
Scott says, first polar crew flight. First flight where there are no trained pilots on board. Yeah, we talked about the polar aspect of it, but the no trained pilots on board aspect is rather interesting. You know, it's an all-civilian crew. It's not a whole bunch of test pilots. So,
Right. And I
just
mean, that's the
yet-
nice thing about
Go ahead.
this vehicle, though, with Crew Dragon. Sorry to interrupt you there.
You're good.
Crew Dragon is meant to be flown 99.999% autonomously. Of course, there is a manual backup in the event that something goes wrong. Obviously, you have teams in Mission Control Houston, or not Mission Control Houston, excuse me, Mission Control Hawthorne in California for SpaceX that are monitoring everything throughout the flight. They are trained, though, in the event of emergencies. If for some reason something fails and they do need to manually pilot it, they do. But Crew Dragon is advanced enough and automated enough that you can fly it without a pilot on board, without the pilot ever touching the actual flight controls for the entirety of the mission.
I mean, that is really cool, right? At the same time, I'm like, just give me a little side stick. Give me something, even if I never use it.
I guess it's like Tesla Autopilot in space.
Yeah, I guess so. Hopefully no one puts a large Roadrunner and Coyote style wall in front of Dragon.
Not touching that one.
Let's thank some people. Nick B, thank you for becoming a red team member. Muddy Creek Critters, thank you for the super chat. They say, evening. Does the Dragon capsule contain enough protection for the crew to protect against coronal mass ejections, proton activity from the sun? It's been very active recently. I do wonder, like, under some conditions, I imagine they can point the trunk towards the source of the radiation. Under other conditions, I imagine they're just like, oh, there's been a mass, there's been a CME, let's deorbit immediately. I don't know. Sawyer, any thoughts?
I don't know the exact answer for this one. On board the ISF, they have they have walls of water, basically,
Right.
that they use for storage, but that are also meant to be used as a shield from high radiation events and CMEs. We've seen that SpaceX has learned from past launches with Starlink, where they accidentally destroyed an entire launch's worth with solar activity. So I'm sure they take that into consideration as well. I'm sure there is some form of radiation shielding, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's also part of the reason why, in addition to the onboard facilities, the onboard electricity generation, the onboard carbon dioxide filters, if that isn't put into consideration when they think about free flying mission duration.
Right. Yeah, I do sort of I wonder what native protection Dragon just by itself offers.
I don't know if Alex has any official insight, but I have not read anything officially as to Crew Dragon's additional solar activity protection.
There's
like you
also
said-
a
It's
Oh.
like you said though, Sawyer. They don't have a safe room like they do on the ISS.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, there's also the opportunity in a hurry that, maybe they can plan sort of like a contingency deorbit, right? Or something like that, and try to come back home, even if it's like in the middle of the Pacific or something like that. Like, at least it's better than, potentially getting some it would probably not be lethal, but probably something that you wouldn't want on your crew, right? Still, and for example, on other spacecraft like Orion, for example, which it's supposed to go around the moon and everything, you don't
Right.
have that capability of being able to come back home that quickly, at least, within a few hours, right? Which is quick enough that at least you can avoid the CME. They have a special galley precisely to, they can cover themselves in some of the supplies and everything to be able to avoid that. But yeah.
There you go. Scott in chat saying, in this case, the radiation dose will be low enough that it's not a
Yeah.
big deal. Thanks, Scott.
And they
And-
also had the Polaris Stone mission, so
Right, which was way more than I mean, just baseline radiation levels. But in terms of coronal mass ejection, that's a whole different story, right?
I
Todd
would worry
Johnson.
more about the computers, for example. Anyways, let you do your thing.
Yeah. Also, a reminder: they're taking an actual X-ray machine up with them. So if there's
Exactly.
dramatic concerns for radiation, they can take care of it. But they're literally planning to try a portable X-ray machine in space for the first time on this.
We good?
Yeah. I've already said all the things that I wanted to say. Sorry.
I was waiting to interrupt you again, but no, go ahead.
You're good. Todd Johnson gifted 20 Red Team memberships. Thank you, Todd, so much. If your name just turned green in chat, that's because you just got a gifted membership from Todd, and you should be nice and thank them for doing that because it supports us and it helps you out. You got a cool thing. Check out all the sweet perks you have in the YouTube community tab now that you're a member, thanks to Todd. Let's do some more questions as the clock continues to tick down. But before we do, Sawyer, a little bit of a weather report. It's dark out, so I can't see any clouds. Oh, I just saw lightning. How's the weather, buddy?
He thinks it.
I mean, the lightning is starting to move offshore. As you can see, it's not fully offshore yet. But we have seen missions that have launched where there's lightning in the background. If it is far enough and not in any contingency zones, there is a chance. Is it, though, is the question. Right now, though, it is definitely slowing down from the torrential downpours and lightning that we saw. Looking backwards towards the VAB and westward, I'm not seeing as much, if any, lightning in that direction. Most of it appears to be pushing through to the east. Beyond that and how far it would be moving out, I'm not totally sure.
All right, well. Fingers crossed the weather continues to improve. Sawyer, I'll throw this one at you, even though the person is asking and making fun of Alex for the minutes thing. Human is asking, how long is tonight's launch window? How long in minutes for Alex?
It is 3 minutes for Alex. No, I'm kidding. Basically, they have 4 specific T0s that they're targeting. So rather than having one big launch window and maybe they'll hit in certain times, we basically have 4 numbers here. So the first one is the one that we are currently counting down towards right now. So hopefully that one is the one that we go for. But if not, if they don't go at 9:46, they have additional attempts at 11:20 p.m. Eastern, a third at 12:53 a.m. Eastern, and then an additional.
Oh, we might have lost Sawyer again. An additional, I think is what he was going, what he was going to say. We will see if we can get Sawyer back here shortly. Sawyer, if you think you're back, just say something. Feel free to steamroller over me. You know, as usual. Continuing to watch the lightning. Well, you know, we do have it's not really a question, but it's a statement from John here saying, "Wonder what rain from inside and thunder sounds like inside the dragon." I mean, there's kind of a vibe to like the rain on your car sound. The rain on the dragon sound. Rain on the spacecraft you're in sound. That's something. Sorry, do we have you back?
Yeah, I should be back now. I don't know how much of that you heard.
We heard, I think, everything except for, well, you dropped out at an additional, I think that was the last one.
Oh, well, there's ones at 9:46 p.m. Eastern, the current one, 11:20 p.m. Eastern, 12:53 a.m. Eastern, and 2:26 a.m. Eastern. Those last two are no joke. They are officially on April 1st.
Wait, but Alex, is that true?
Well, it seems like that might have changed. We're waiting for Jay to be able to pull up the SpaceX website, but essentially they changed the wording on the website to only highlight the second launch opportunity at 11:20 p.m. So that means they're still holding for that first T0 of 9:46 p.m. But they may only have now one backup launch opportunity, and this could be related with the fact that now the crew is on board Dragon. The pad crews have exited the launch site, right? So probably they have some very limited time. Then we can see that wording from the website. And you can see there is one additional backup opportunity available at 11:20 p.m. Eastern. So it's not talking about the other two, which it did before. So the other two opportunities, which were originally planned for 12:53 a.m. and 2:26 a.m., they are no longer on the cards for today. So right now, they will have that 9:46 p.m. Eastern launch time and the backup opportunity at 11:20. Hopefully, they only go for that 9:46. And we don't have to be.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, well, clock continuing to tick down. Again, I'm just so excited for this mission. The first time humans will orbit in a 90-degree inclination. And a whole bunch of really cool science. And by all accounts, 4 really great human beings launching on this one. So hopefully in an hour and 11 minutes or so, we will get a T0. Let's keep doing more questions. Blake Foster's asking, what frequency bands are used during these flights? I do not know off the top of my head. Are there any amateur radio operators on these flights?
Ooh, I should be back.
Sawyer, they've done like ham radio from the shuttle and from the ISS, right?
Yes, they have. They've have them on board the ISS. They have actual operators, but they have a onboard station that they will be having that people who are amateur radio operators on the ground can tune into, and they will be sending ham radio images throughout the flight. They call it Fram2 ham, which I love the name, but that is what they'll be using to actually send down these images, and anybody with a ham radio license and a receiver to be able to get it can see these pictures of the poles from their spacecraft as they fly around.
That's so cool. Neat. Thanks for that question, Blake. That's a really good one. River Dave is asking, did this crew eat steak and eggs and sign the wall? I mean, I assume they signed the wall, but we didn't get views of that. As for their breakfast, I can't tell you. I would love some more color on sort of, the traditions that we all sort of expect and know from other crewed flights on Dragon. Signing the wall, taking the pad closeout cruise patches, that sort of thing.
Oh, Lord. Somebody mentioned steamed hams
Steamed
in
hams?
chat. And I just realized they're going to a polar orbit, so they can see the
Aurora Borealis in the kitchen.
Oh, you
This,
kids.
at this
Simpsons
time of day,
references.
at this time of year, localized entirely in the Dragon spacecraft. May I see it? Okay.
Yes, because they have the cupola. They'll be able to see it.
Excellent. Wow, Alex. I saw that go by and I was like, there's no way I can tie this in. But you found a
There
way,
is.
buddy.
There is, yeah.
You found a way. Synot is asking, I'm a few miles away, sitting on the 50, looking at the VAB across the water. Is the pad north or south of the VAB? Sawyer, I'm looking at you, buddy.
It's east of the VAB and a tiny touch south. I'm trying to think. So State Road 50, if I recall, I believe that's the one over by the hotels by 95 and down towards Titusville area. From there, it should be a little bit to the right of the VAB if you're looking that way. It's a good viewing spot along Titusville, Max Brewer, even along 50 and US 1 over there. You should get a good view.
Thanks, Sawyer.
No problem. I had to do a little mental map in my head there, but we got there.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while for me. So I threw that one at you because I do not have as accurate a lay of the land in my head as I used to. Once upon a time. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you for the support. They say, well, heads up again, looking like mean tornado outbreak on Wednesday. Stay safe if you're in the risk area. Thanks, Ethereal Swordsman. Everybody stay safe. Let's hit this one. We talked about it earlier in the stream, but we might have had people joining that missed it. Why is this called Fram2? NRT Stealth wants to know. Alex, fill us in.
That's because it's sort of like a homage to homage, I don't know what's pronunciation, but it's sort of named after the Fram boat or ship, I guess, from the Norwegian expeditions.
It's a ship. It's not a boats are tiny, ships are big. It's a ship.
Okay, it's named after the Fram ship. It's a Norwegian ship that went sort of the big expeditions to the South Pole. And yeah, so it's sort of like a continuation, right? They named it Fram2 because it's sort of like the second Fram, and its meaning or sort of like what it means. Fram is forward in Norwegian, so you have that sort of continuation again, forward, I guess, as well. And they're carrying a little bit of that ship on board Dragon here. What did you say? What part of the ship was it, Jack? Because I know you know better than me that what it
I don't
actually
even know
is.
what part of the ship it is, but according to our article, our fantastic article on NASASpaceflight.com
Mhm.
about this mission, it refers to it as a piece of teak, which teak is just like
Okay.
ship wood,
Yeah.
marine wood.
And so they're doing that because this mission is going over the poles, and so in sort of the mindset of this mission is like we're exploring the poles from orbit, so it's like a continuation of those expeditions from the Fram ship, and so it's sort of like again name after that to rendition that sort of expedition that they did with the Fram vehicle.
Good deal. Another one that we've talked about a little bit, but we should hit again. John Cook's daughter, Dottie, is asking, how high up will they go in space? What sort of altitude are we expecting on this mission? Although, really, the headline isn't the altitude, it's the inclination.
Very similar to the previous, even to an ISS mission, it's roughly between 445 and 450 kilometers. Not that higher than an ISS mission. The one that had the highlight on the altitude was Polaris Dawn. That was the one with I think it was 1,200 kilometers altitude on the apogee at the very least. So yeah.
Very cool. Sawyer, I'll throw this one at you, bud. Well, actually, you know what? Let's take a moment because we are getting close to an hour to go. And I don't know, just sort of appreciate that these 4 people are going to be going to space. All right, there's your moment. Sawyer, I'm going to throw this one at you.
Thank you, John Stewart.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that moment of zen. Oh, that takes
Yep.
me back. Jayway's asking, do bodily fluids such as blood have trouble making their way through the body in zero gravity?
Not necessarily. I mean, everything basically inside your body, your blood and all of that, if you think about it, is pressurized when they take your blood pressure. So it is still able to pump it through. The problem becomes things that normally would always go downwards sometimes don't get the gravity to help push it downward. So you'll still have your normal blood flow, but a lot of times, if you look at astronauts on the ground, compare them to in space, their heads look a lot larger. And that's because in gravity, the gravity pushes the blood down towards your feet so it doesn't pool in your head. Without that on orbit, you get big heads.
Yep, don't want that. All right. Well, let's keep the train moving here. The clock is continuing to tick down T-minus 1 hour and 3 minutes to that first opportunity. Fingers crossed the weather allows them to get off the ground during that first opportunity. But yeah, let's just wait and see what happens. You know the drill here. We are NSF. We're NASAspaceflight.com. We point our cameras at rockets whenever we can, and we try our best to bring you the very best space flight coverage that we can. So we have our whole team out there, our East Coast team at Kennedy Space Center. Sawyer's out there, Julia's out there, Max is out there, and we will be super excited to get this rocket into the air tonight. Fingers crossed. Really quick, Tyler Bell. What's up, dude? Thank you for the support. They say thank you, Jack and team. Watching closely from Starbase, Rebecca, Madison, TJ, and Tyler. And I see the frogs, yes. And 2 of those, 2 super chats. Thank you, Tyler. I don't know if you meant to do 2, but thank you for both. And what's up to everybody out there in Starbase? Daniel Hogbin, thanks for gifting 5 red team memberships, and Bideford as well, gifting 5 red team memberships. Y'all are the best. We can't do this stuff without your support, so thank you. All right. Well, I'm starting to get a little launch excitement going. So are you excited?
There is no around, but I am also excited.
Oh, I missed that message. Are you excited, Alex? You don't sound very excited.
I am just focused because we are approaching 1 hour to launch.
Indeed. If you see the clock on the upper left-hand side of the screen, we are at T-minus an hour and 1 minute and 40-something seconds. Welcome to all of our viewers on the Popular Science channel. And yeah, let's jump into discussing the crew a little bit. How about that, Alex? Because we haven't talked about the crew in a little bit, and everyone coming from Popular Science might not have heard us talking about it already.
Yeah, we have the commander, the mission commander is Chun Wang. He's an entrepreneur and adventurer, as they call him on sort of the Fram2 website. He co-founded F2 Pool, also what's it called?
Stakefish.
Stakefish. There we go. Yeah, I know it was something along the lines of Stakefish. He's a cryptocurrency investor, right? And so he's using that money for these sort of unique spaceflight into a polar orbit for a crewed mission, right? As you can see, he's never gone to space. 0 days in space, 0 EVAs. This is going to be his first flight. It's actually going to be the first flight for everybody on board, which is not something usual that you see on spaceflight, that everybody on the capsule is new to spaceflight. But yeah, he's the one that sort of, funding this mission, if you will.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we're getting to the point where people can do things like buy missions on Dragon. Of course, we've had Jared Isaacman do it. Now we have Chun Wang doing it, and it's just exactly what we all want to see. We want to see more and more people being able to go to space. And to your point, Alex, everybody on this mission is a first-time flyer. A lot of times we'll see, missions with first-time flyers mixed in with veterans or repeat flyers. This is kind of unique in that this will be their first time flying to space. And we're under an hour. We are under an hour officially, hopefully, weather permitting, etc. We'll have to see how that goes, but we're getting rapidly to the point, right, Alex, where fueling starts, and once fueling starts, that's kind of the whole shooting match, right?
Yeah.
All right, I completely derailed us, though. Let's keep talking about the crew. I got excited because we're under an hour. Let's talk next about Jannicke Mikkelsen, who Scott Manley in chat says, fun fact, they both worked on the same movie, Stowaway. Scott, what did you do on the movie? That's really cool. But Alex, tell us more.
Yeah, and that is because she's a cinematographer, also film director, and specializing in 3D and virtual reality, as you see there. So, if you want somebody that can capture the poles and everything from a unique perspective, this is the kind of person. But as you see there, she's also the vehicle commander, so she's going to be in charge of commanding the spacecraft. And so that is really cool. Also wearing the Norwegian flag as well. I believe it's going to be a first for that as well. So yeah, that's really neat and really nice. We were talking about before, as a photographer as well, it's kind of unique that we are carrying someone that actually does that by experience, by profession, right. I guess.
Right. I mean, I feel like I've yelled about this on the Flame Trench, and I've yelled about this on various streams many times. Like, it's one thing to teach somebody to take photos and videos, like an astronaut or a test pilot or what have you. You can. They're very smart, intelligent individuals, and they can point a camera and take photos and videos. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Versus sending, I don't want to sound too hoity-toity, but an actual cinematographer, an actual artist whose entire profession. It's like, yeah, you can send an astronaut up there and have them paint a picture, but if they're not a painter, it might not look that good.
It's like in the movie Contact, right? They should have sent a poet. Well, yeah.
Right. Good reference. Solid reference. All right, next up, we have Rabea Rogge.
He's going to be the vehicle pilot on this mission. Also a rookie, just 0 days in space. She's an electrical engineer specializing in Arctic robotics. She has always been fascinated by extreme environments and studies them to understand the current limits of our world and learn how to push beyond them. So, she's being in this kind of Arctic expeditions as well, on the ground. And so it's one of those things that also unites them, that they have been in these kind of extreme environments before on the ground. And so it's one of those things that they all share as well. And yeah, Rabea Rogge, she's also been like that. And it's going to be the second space flight that, I just heard in Spurker there. But yeah, it's going to be the second space flight that we're going to have both pilot and commander being female. So that's nice.
Really cool. Again, just more opening up of access to space. And lastly, on the crew, but definitely not leastly, we have Eric Phillips. An Australian, right, Alex?
Yeah, and he's also going to be the medical officer on this mission as well. So he's also a co-founder of the International Polar Guides Association and co-creator of the Polar Expeditions Classification Scheme, which has earned him international recognition and respect. So again, every single one of them has had some kind of polar expedition experience, and now they're going to be able to do this sort of thing as well in orbit. And so there you can see as well, polar explorer, adventurer, guide, one of the two first Australians to ski to both of the poles. So yeah, that's really exciting. And it goes along with a mission. It's a mission to polar orbit. It's sort of that thing that it's very fitting.
It's the sort of thing where, as the financier, as the person who essentially purchased this mission, Chun Wang could do whatever he wants. He could fly whoever he wants. He could go wherever he wants. He's the one that bought the mission. This is his show. To choose to bring a bunch of polar explorers, to choose to fly a polar trajectory, to choose to have all of this interesting science be done and prioritized over just, floating around in space and looking out the window, which is a perfectly fine and acceptable thing to do. Hey, if you have the money to buy a mission, by all means. If you want to go float and stare, it's your money. I would go float and stare, absolutely. I don't want to do science. I want to float and stare and take photos. But no, it should. I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate that the mission is being done in the name of exploration, in the name of advancing human knowledge, because I mean, you've all heard me yell about it many times. The more things we can learn about human spaceflight and humans in space in general, the better. And this is just another stepping stone on that journey.
Speaking of stepping stones, Jack, we have had a very big milestone. The Fram2 is go for launch. The crew is go for launch.
The
before
crew
propel
is go.
load. Yep.
Fantastic. Another good thing to hear. I'm slightly disconcerted by that lightning, but like we
I
were
will
talking
say,
about earlier, if it's far enough offshore, we should be good, right, Sawyer?
exactly. I will say, directly overhead, there are stars. I can see stars in the sky right now. So it is clearing up as it pushes from west to east here. Reminder, this mission is not going northeast or southeast. This mission is going essentially due south with a slight southeastern dogleg to begin. So that isn't a bad thing right now. Of course, it needs to be cleared down the entire corridor as well as at potential abort sites and for its California splashdown at the end of the mission 3 to 5 days from now. But so far, this is looking more promising, if not this window, for the second and final opportunity of the night. So don't give up on it just yet. There's still a chance.
It's also worth mentioning that this camera view is like looking sort of northeast direction, and this is going south, right? Or at least at the beginning, it's going southeast and then straight south, right? And so it's not going in that direction of where that lining is. So
All right, I can feel the adrenaline. I'm increasingly nervous.
some footage
Oh,
there
is this
of
this
the
is
crew
the
arriving.
wall signing? It looks like that
Yep.
was a quick shot of them signing the wall.
Yeah, that's before. This is a replay, by the way. This is not happening right now. That's a replay that
this
they're
is
showing.
Thank you, yeah. All right, there's the crew, happy and seated as the seats begin to rotate. Again, all this happened earlier.
Yep.
Can you
this
imagine
is
what it
from
must be
earlier.
like to be suited up and sitting in your spacecraft and just know that very soon you're going to be pushed into space atop a column of fire? I don't know. I don't know what I don't have anything in my life to compare to that, to know what it must feel like. All I know is that it must feel amazing. Sawyer, how you doing, man? You said you could see stars above your head. I mean, stars are above your head all
Yeah.
the time, even if you can't see them. But other than that,
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
other
There are
than that,
indeed clouds still overhead. Those are more thin and wispy. And yes, there are visible stars straight ahead. Obviously, if you look eastward, which is where most of these cameras are that you're seeing on our screen, you see the lightning behind it. That is absolutely moving offshore. Right now, we are all outside without worry of being struck by lightning at the moment, and not just because we're regular Floridians. It is moving outward. The wind, not that bad right now here either. It's all starting to improve. And again, we have over 50 minutes until this first of 2 potential T0s.
all right. Y'all, if you have any questions, don't forget, you can type them in chat. Keep your questions coming at NASA Spaceflight, and we'll see your question pop up in some software we have running in the background. Do we want to talk about the experiments again? Sawyer, we've sort of gone in depth on them, but in case people are joining now, do you want to give us a sort of a quick rundown of some of the science they'll be doing on board? If we still have Sawyer?
Absolutely. So,
Yeah, we still have
Hang on.
Sawyer.
yeah, I'm still here. Sorry about that. Was pulling up my list and talking with some people here. But there is plenty of research that is being done on this flight. Of course, there are parts of it that are being used to study the poles, in particular, something called Steve, which is not a person's name, and it is not exactly the aurora that we're used to seeing, but it is a sort of effect similar to it that we can see inside of the aurora borealis. So they will be studying that. They will also be doing a lot of human experiments, including the first ever portable X-ray system to fly into space. They will be doing a demonstration to prove that even in a small capsule on a short duration space flight, they can do the exercise needed to maintain bone and muscle mass. They're doing tests in relation to space sickness, of which on the previous commercial flight Polaris, 2 of the 4 crew members got space sickness. So they want to study that and find ways to help prevent it in the future. They're also going to be taking a look at growing mushrooms in space to see how well they grow, since they are typically fast growers, and potentially harvest that. They're going to be looking at glucose levels and to see if glucose monitors can actually be accurate enough in space to allow people with diabetes to wear a continuous glucose monitor and still fly into orbit. They'll be doing brain mapping and blood flow tests to see how the fluids inside the body move. We do a lot of testing on that for the long duration space missions, but honestly, not a lot during the short duration missions. And they're even doing things that really haven't been done much, but probably should, including studying women's health. They are using special strips to study feminine hormones in space. As more women fly into space, it's important that we understand their physiology too.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sawyer. In short, a whole bunch of really cool and really important science, some of which you were like, I mean, at least my reaction was, really? We haven't done anything like that yet? Like, how has there not been an X-ray done in space yet? Of a human, I guess. Of course, there's plenty of X-rays in space. You know what I mean. But yeah, this is really cool. It's part of the reason why this mission is so exciting and why we're all so excited for it here. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you again for additional support. They say, so I know one of the big goals is to put boots on Mars, but when can we put boots on Venus, Mercury, Uranus? Heck, even just Minimus. Minimus isn't a video game, first off, buddy. I mean, I still think the Apollo program would have been well served to do a Venus flyby, but that ended up never working out. Hard to say. Ooh, Sawyer, did you get a bit of an update on the weather?
Yes. So we have been in a phase 2 lightning warning, which means lightning actively in the area to basically stay undercover. That has ended. They just terminated that a few seconds ago on the loudspeakers here. A phase 1 lightning watch remains in effect in addition to a strong wind warning until 10 p.m. Eastern. So that is 1 hour from now. A reminder, those can be terminated earlier or they could be extended, but as of right now, we are out of the worst of it, the phase 2 lightning warning. So things are improving.
I like it. I like improvements. Speaking of things improving, that's not a good segue at all. Alex, where are we at in the timeline? That has nothing to do with anything improving. I'm bad at segues.
Yeah, they're just essentially at the point of like going through the last few checks. And in a few minutes, we're going to have that go, no go decision for propellant load. Because, in very short time, they're going to need to retract that crew access arm and arm the launch escape system. So, yeah. Falcon, well muted.
Well, hopefully, thank you, by the way, for telling me I was muted. Hopefully we get the go for prop load here very shortly. All right. I'm really feeling the adrenaline at this point. 4 humans. 45 minutes away from launching into space. Let's see. How about we do some more questions? Sawyer, does that sound like a good idea to you?
Sounds like a fantastic idea. What do you have in mind?
Michael Burns is asking, where do you get official Cape weather from? Like the different lightning stages and stuff. Is that like broadcast to you on a loudspeaker? Do you get updates on your phone?
Yes, here there is a loudspeaker that they blast all of the warnings because, of course, they want to warn all of the employees here to take shelter if needed. There are also internal websites that do use to track all of these active watches and warnings. So members of the people that work here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Patrick Space Force Base, as well as us here in the media know where and when to stay safe. So that's sometimes it's either heard on the loudspeaker or seen on that internal.
All right. We do have the go no go poll decision coming up.
For
We will
control
keep
room
our
and
ears.
abort protocols.
Now that's the great news we were
For
waiting
all
for.
operators in MCCX and Hangar X, both control rooms go into lockdown in T-minus 45 minutes. Will remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence and immediately proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director where the structural breakup or fire is imminent occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control. At this time, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Proceeding on crew arm at this time.
And great news, that was that briefing we were just talking about, John. Everything so far is go for.
Fantastic. Everything so far is go. That is exactly what we want to hear at this point. 43 minutes to go. Falcon 9 is about to come alive and get really nice and frosty as they load propellants into it. And then hopefully we get to see these people launch into space.
There we go.
Speaking-
Look at the crew access arm.
It's moving back, yeah.
Yep, it's starting to retract.
So it'll retract a bit, and then at launch, it'll kind of throw back even further, right?
Yeah, they do that just in case they needed to pull it back against the Dragon. But you know, once it launches, you kind of want to get it away from the rocket.
Right. Well, there it goes, moving away from the spacecraft. 4 astronauts now inside with the crew arm retracted. That's a milestone. What a cool shot, too. Can see a little bit of water dripping out of one of the rainbirds.
Yeah, that's normal.
Neat.
It's not a leak or anything. It's actually the way that they know that there's
Right.
some little pressure going through.
Right, because you don't want to push a bunch of air through when you're expecting there to be a bunch of water ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have a good question here from Avenger asking, do you think it will be visible from Miami? We're gonna try something here. I don't know if y'all know, but NASA spaceflight
Close
has
visors and
a-
arm launch escape system.
Oh, hang on.
There we go.
Dragon copy. And there's that call
Three
out that
tables.
John just mentioned.
Yeah, make sure you're buckled.
Now they visually you could see that they closed their visors and they're
SpaceX Dragon, visors closed, arming launch escape system.
There we go. Arming the launch escape system.
Fantastic. All right, here we go. We're gonna try something here. Will it be visible from Miami? Asks Avenger. I have Next Spaceflight, which is an app and a website that is also part of the NSF umbrella. And look what you can do. Jay, can we bring that up, or should we wait till maybe we should wait? Nope, let's bring it up. All right, check it out. I'm in the app. This is my phone. I can click on the Fram2 mission. It's got the clock right there. But watch what we just added. You click on flight simulation, and it shows you the trajectory in 3D. This is powered by Flight Club data. Declan, who makes Flight Club, is really amazing in allowing us to use this data. So shout out to Flight Club, shout out to Declan. It's an absolutely amazing resource for photographers and for just people wanting to know how to see a launch. Now, I am doing this on my computer because this is the first time that we're trying this on stream. But this is my phone, and it's a great app. And if I was on my phone, I could, rotate it with my fingers, but I'm using my mouse, as you can see. So
And Jack,
I can't do that.
if you
but-
select stage 1, you can show where it's landing. Look at that.
Neat.
Because there's a
So, yeah.
stage 1 and a stage 2.
People always ask, when's the next launch? Which way is it going? That sort of thing. Next Spaceflight is a great resource. Check it out. We will be doing better demos than this in the future, but I was excited about this. This is
There's
feature
also
that
a
just launched.
live option.
Oh yeah, wait, if I click where is it? If I go here, no, not follow me. Wait, if I play simulation, then
There you
it'll
go.
actually play like which way it's going. And you can switch it back to 3D and then zoom out. And you can change how fast
can
it goes or how
see-
slow it goes. Anyways, that's been your app demo.
You can see at the
I'll-
top it says preview.
There you go. So yeah, check it out. Next Spaceflight. We don't really talk about it on stream very often, but this update just came out and I wanted to point it out. So yeah, if you're wanting to know which way it's going, I would say based on this, probably going to be visible from Miami. Let's see. Let's play it forward just a little bit. Maybe. Yeah. Anyways, we hope you like it. Always trying to make everything we do here at NSF better. Add features, add cool things, help people know about spaceflight. So there you go. 38 minutes. Oh my gosh, 38 minutes. Sir, are you hyped?
Beyond. I mean, if you told me an hour ago sitting in the car with the Lightning that we would have the launch escape system currently armed and propellant load about to be underway in just a few minutes, I would not believe you. But here we are. It's an amazing mission and the amazing teams at SpaceX working on this. Props to them, and hopefully props to this rocket in just a few minutes.
Ever the consummate professional, Sawyer. Alex, are you hyped?
I am, but I'm also like, oh boy, they're about to load propellant, right? Like, things get very active.
Yeah, no kidding. When is that? In like, 2 minutes?
Yeah, that's a T-minus 35 minutes, always the same for all Falcon 9 missions. It's an automated countdown sequence that activates at T-minus 35 minutes. So, yeah, right now they are venting the tanks for propellant load. So, before you put some liquid on board, you kind of need to depressurize a little bit the tanks so that they can, get into them and everything. And
Right.
yeah, that's one of the few things that they do beforehand. But yeah, 2 minutes from that.
Cool. I want to thank some people. Ethereal Swordsman, thanks for the support. They say, so I know.
You're
one of the
right
big
on time,
goals
Inside.
is to put boots on Mars. But when can we put... Oh, wait, we did that one. We did that one. Thank you, Ethereal Swordsman. JMH Hunt, thank you for becoming a Padret member. Ethereal Swordsman again saying, isn't it easier to train a driller to be an astronaut than it is to train an astronaut to drill a hole? Armageddon reference acknowledged. Lalo, thank you for the
There
support.
is an astronaut that is an oil rigger. Just saying.
Is there?
Yep.
Which
I think
one?
her name is Dennis, I think. I have to look up her name. But yeah, she's an oil rigger.
No way. I had no idea. Lalo, thank you again. They say, when I win the lottery, I will buy a launch and bring the NSF crew. Thank you. It's very sweet of you. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you for the support again. See, how many science points does SpaceX get when they make it home? Oh boy, they get a lot of them. Like a couple hundred at least. And Russell Snodgrass. Russell, thank you so much. $100 super chat. That's outstanding. They say crewed launches are the best. Who has seen the most crew launches? I bet it's Sawyer. Thanks for the great coverage. I bet it is Sawyer.
I mean, Max may have a few more because I only had 2 shuttles under my belt. So
We're gonna have to break things down and figure out who's the ultimate champion. But either way, Russell, that is a huge amount of support, and we always see you coming out with huge amounts of support. So thank you. It's so appreciated. Oh man, 35 minutes. Fueling should be starting in about 10 seconds, right, Alex?
Yeah, right on the dot. It's always 3500. So let's see.
Will we get any indication of that other than when
Started.
frost does start to form?
And great.
The call out from, yeah, we just got a little bit of that call out. Fueling has started.
There you
So
go.
yeah. And right now, what they're loading is they're loading kerosene, RP1, a refined form of kerosene, on both stages, on stage 1, the booster, and also on stage 2. And at the same time, they're also loading liquid oxygen on the first stage. So as you mentioned, we're going to see some frost, right? It's not going to be right away because there's a little bit of the liquid oxygen tank that is not exactly the wall of the rocket. But once it rises a little bit beyond that, then you have that frost on the booster. So yeah. As for the liquid oxygen on the second stage, that is a little bit later into the count at the T-minus 16-minute mark.
Alrighty. Well, we'll keep our eyes open, looking for that frost. In the meantime, keep your questions coming. Type at NASA Spaceflight in chat. I'm also looking at chat, and I see a lot of people asking questions but not typing at NASA Spaceflight. So, if no one's answering you, maybe that's why. Just saying. Let's see. Mike Keywood says, when my Bitcoin mining pays off, I'm going to donate 10K to you guys. You do a great job. Thank you, Mike. Save the money, but thank you. Mitchell says bacon needs to be investigated in space next. I agree. I'm not hearing any dissent. So we're going to move on.
I mean, they do entire studies on space food, especially for the long duration space flights. They will go through an entire kitchen at NASA and basically taste test everything and pick out their favorites. I'm assuming it would be similar here for this crew of 4. While it's not as long of a mission, they get to choose their snacks, they get to choose their meals, of course, things that will provide as few crumbs as possible, things that if they float away, it's not going to get caught into a vent or something like that, as well as things to ease the facilities on board for crew waste removal.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that they get to pick you go on a transatlantic flight, you get to designate what kind of meal you want. It only makes sense that you pay for a space flight. You should be able to pick what kind of foods are coming up with you. Apocalypse Cow gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you, Danger Moo. That's it. That's what we call Apocalypse Cow. Braver Unit. Braver Crunit? I'm sorry. I don't know what your screen name is. I can't read apparently. But they're asking, are there any spacecraft that have been put into a retrograde orbit? Tons. Tons of spacecraft. Right, Alex?
Not crewed spacecraft.
Yeah, but they didn't say
Yeah.
crewed spacecraft. They said
Yeah.
spacecraft.
A lot of spacecraft had gone into retrograde orbits. Yeah.
I can't even. I'm gonna mess up the naming of this orbit. It's the one that starts with the letter M. Is it Molnia? Molina? I don't know how to
Molnia,
say
yeah.
that one.
Some Molnia are just highly inclined, but not retrograde, right?
Right.
It also depends on your altitude. But yeah, it's sort of like the sun-synchronous orbits. If you go very, very high up, you have to go into a very retrograde orbit in order to be able to get the sun-synchronous orbit effect. It's sort of, that sort of thing with relationship between how high you up and your orbit shifting every day to be able to align with the same illumination. Orbital mechanics. We're working on a video about that.
Orbital mechanics are so counterintuitive. Until I started playing Kerbal Space Program, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Mike Keywood is asking, would I be right in thinking the mushrooms they're growing in space are oyster mushrooms? They're the easiest to grow at home, so that's why I think that. Yes, that's exactly what they're growing, right, Sawyer? Sawyer? We might not have Sawyer. But yes, they are growing oyster mushrooms, among many other scientific objectives on this flight.
Yep.
Nibbles with a $2 New Zealand super chat saying, "I love the Metallica theme today. Ride the lightning." Hopefully we get some really cool imagery from this one, given the lightning in the background. But speaking of cool imagery, I see a venti, maybe even a frosty Falcon 9.
Yeah. We can see that frost on the liquid oxygen tank on the booster. It's getting loaded with that liquid oxygen. Very cold, cryogenic temperatures. It's around minus 200 degrees Celsius. For those that use Fahrenheit, it's about minus 330 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, really cold.
Do not lick the frosty rocket.
I don't know it in like Rankine or like Kelvin or anything like that. Just Google. It's your friend.
Kevin Bradford is asking, are there any firsts for Starlink communication planned during this mission similar to Polaris Dawn? I don't know about firsts, but certainly we talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream. You might have missed it. This mission will also be carrying a Starlink Placer in the trunk, allowing them to have very good internet connectivity. So we'll see what they end up doing with it. I don't think they've announced any specific plans, have they, Alex?
I don't think so. They just have it, right? And as we were mentioning, it has like gigabit connectivity, which you don't have with your regular phased array antenna for any user on the ground, for example. That's exclusive of those laser links because, laser connectivity has a lot higher bandwidth than, because it uses optical lasers rather than radio waves.
Yeah, that's really neat. I'm a big fan of improving connectivity for people in space. It's like you think about the shuttle era or the ISS even, where it's like you can kind of bandwidth constrained. Don't love that, but I am a child of the internet, so surprise, surprise.
And we should probably explain what placer means. It's like a play on words, I guess, with plug and laser. So it's placer.
It's a plug-in laser.
Yeah. So yeah.
Got it. 27 minutes and change to go. Looks a little windy at the press site, but not too bad.
It is not super windy out here, Jack. There's a light breeze, I think is the nicest way to put it. Enough to distill the humidity in the air, but definitely these ground winds would be within limits.
All right. Thank you for that, Sawyer. I know you and Julia and Max are all hoping to capture some good imagery of tonight's launch, so fingers crossed for you. Oh gosh. Who put this in the question queue? Detroit Mission Control says, Jack, if someone paid for your trip into space, would you wear a kilt as a zero-G indicator?
That was probably Ryan. He was helping with a question queue before.
Sure. Because no one's ever going to do it, so sure. Lords of Random, thank you for the super chat.
Yeah,
we need to ask Jared.
They just got... No. Just got my Flight 8 patch. Thanks for everything. Thank you, buddy. Nibbles, again, loving the Metallica theme. And Mans on Mars, thank you for the support. They say, how many polar bears will they fly over?
Many?
All of them?
More than one?
Technically all of them, right? Because they're going to be orbiting the entire Earth, so...
That is also true. Like, one of the things of this mission is that they're going to see, or at least orbit, the entire Earth. Every other mission, when they launch to, for example, like 51 degrees inclination, which is the ISS orbit inclination, the furthest north that they can go is 51.6 degree north, because that's the inclination of the orbit, or 51.6 degrees south. If you go to a 90-degree orbit, though, the furthest north is 90 degrees, and the furthest south is 90 degrees south, which means that's the entire Earth, right? And then the Earth sort of rotates underneath you. So in the end, you essentially cover the entire Earth.
Pretty unique. And there's a lot of unique things about this mission. And we have Zoe here asking, hi, can you talk about why polar orbit is so exciting important? I mean, we've been talking about it all stream because they're all super hyped about it. But to go over it a little bit again, I mean, first off, it's just never been done. That's really cool. Second off, there's a variety of different scientific objectives that they're going to accomplish on this mission. Not necessarily like requiring the polar orbit, but given that one of the crew members is a director and cinematographer, certainly hoping we get some interesting imagery from the Earth's poles, as well as there are scientific objectives related to flying over the poles as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, just speaking personally, this is a mission of civilians, of international humans, and of polar explorers. And this is going to further our knowledge in terms of human spaceflight. And it's a well-earned treat isn't the right word. A well-earned honor from all of these people who've devoted a significant portion of their lives and careers to studying or documenting the Earth's poles. So that's my answer. Alex, do you have a different answer, or perhaps a similar one but different?
Well,
I don't know. What strikes you about this?
I will say the part about what you mentioned about the symbolism, for example, that it is, everybody in this crew has done polar expeditions, right? So they're doing a polar expedition, but from orbit, if you will. And so it has some kind of symbolic meaning, I guess.
Yeah. Sawyer, any additional thoughts?
I mean, they're tailoring their studies to it. That's part of it. Is they are definitely taking some experiments on board to take a look at the parts of the aurora, that aren't usually studied as well. One of the cool experiments they're doing is they're asking people to take pictures of the aurora on the ground that they will take from space, and that way they can kind of make a 3D version of it and compare. So that's one of the very cool things. Another cool thing is that they just announced over the speakers here at the press site that the Phase 1 lightning watch has been terminated. So there are 0 lightning warnings in effect. The strong wind warning does remain in effect, but there is no lightning within any danger areas here.
Terminated, you say? Hopefully it will not be Bach. No, really? No? Nothing? All right. I didn't even get a groan. Okay.
No, it did for me and Max Evans out in the field. Don't worry.
Okay, good deal. Alex, where are we at in the flow here? I see we're about 22 minutes to go. In fact, if I stall for 2 more seconds, I can say 22 minutes and 20 seconds. 20. Oh, I blew it.
No, that's Falcon heavy. You're doing the same thing that Sawyer did on the last mission.
I'm not.
It's 20 minutes and 20 seconds.
I know it's 20. I was queuing you up to say where we're at in fueling and mention that the T-minus 20-minute vent is coming. I just wanted to say 2 minutes. Somebody talk. I can't say the number 2222 apparently.
Yeah. Anywho, but yeah, we are essentially about 2 minutes away from that chill down vent on the Stromback. You're gonna see that huge plume from the side of the Stromback, that white structure next to the rocket. That is a structure that supplies a lot of the fluids for the second stage, the power, the data connections. It also provides some of the connections as well for the Dragon spacecraft while it is on the ground, and also some of the connections for the first stage, especially that intrastage, that black intrastage in between the first and second stage, which, one of the things that it does, it sort of provides nitrogen purging for that area. And so right now, they are still proceeding with that propellant load on the first stage and kerosene load on the second stage. But soon, that kerosene load will wrap up, and they're going to be preparing for the liquid oxygen load on the second stage with that T-minus 20-minute vent, which should be happening in 40 seconds from now. So you have 40 seconds to say something, Jack.
Oh, man.
And we can see that timeline. We can check off some of the things. Should be coming up on that LOX chill down soon. It's already green. Jay shouldn't be green because it hasn't happened yet.
It's got 20 seconds still.
We got you, buddy. But yeah, should be coming up. It's actually a little bit. There we go. Now you can put it back because it's there.
There is the T-minus 20-minute vent. This
Yeah,
we
it's
call the best vent because, as Alex was just saying, it lets us know that everything is on track for the
Yeah.
launch.
and at 39A, it is not exactly 2020. It's a bit earlier, probably because of the peculiarities of the tank farm at 39A, which is different from the one at Space Launch Complex 40 and the one at Space Launch Complex 4 East. And don't bother, Jay. You're fine. We just wanted to mess with you.
I just want to point out, by the way, that this is Max's shot set up from our very long-range robotic tracker. So shout
Nice.
out to Max for getting this view up, and that is a perfect view. You can see the venting from that transporter erector, which should stop at T-minus 16 minutes, which will mean that the LOX load will begin on the second stage.
Excellent. And yeah, thank you to Max for braving the storms and getting the robotic tracker set up. I know it's not trivial to do. So thank you, Max. I'm looking forward to this view on liftoff. Also, thank you, Sawyer. I know you've been dealing with all the lightning alerts and everything.
Yeah.
No place in the world I'd rather be right now.
Something about the Kennedy Space Center press site at night is just a treat. It's just a real treat. How's the turnout? Speaking of like media and press and whatnot.
I'm honestly surprised at the lack of turnout, for a better way to put it. I mean,
Oh,
the number of cars here in the parking lot is you probably can count on all the digits on my body. It's a little on the sad side because this is human spaceflight, this is human exploration. You'll get the arguments from people that, oh, it's got, people paying to go to space. They're doing science. They're doing research. There are people about to launch into orbit. There should be a lot more, and I hope the people that are watching will share this excitement with me and bring all the people in for launch to enjoy and watch this together, because this is human exploration. This is our future.
it is. I wonder if like when the first expeditions across the Atlantic were happening, people were grumbling and like, "Oh, geez, you're just spending money going across the Atlantic for nothing." It's like, hey, do you get it? Like, this is kind of important.
I guess also, especially in the US, since there's no American on board, and so maybe they're like, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
That could also
disappointing.
be.
But either way, that's where we shine when other organizations do not deem it worth their time to cover. That's what we're here for.
If there's a rocket that we can point a camera at in any shape or form, we try. And you know that very well, Jack, because the other day you tried to do that from Vandenberg, even with all of the bandwidth issues and whatnot. And hey, we sort of tried, right? And we got a rocket on our cameras. So,
That was a
that's
fun
what we
stream.
do.
That was a good one.
Indeed. I love that hilarious Jack.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
need to go there. Let's keep rolling through the question queue here. 17 minutes to go. Things are getting really real. Also, that cloud of vapor is really sticking around, or condensation, I guess I should say.
Is there a lot of wind out there? I don't know if Sawyer can maybe answer
He said
that.
no. So that must be why it's sticking around.
Yeah.
It is very humid out still. It is, the humidity's going away with the breeze, but it is extremely humid, hence why you see the larger expansion of that plume, but you see it's basically stagnant. In very strong windy days, we've seen it blow like a cape sideways or straight out. The fact that
Right.
it's lingering around the rocket means the wind is minimal.
And it's gone. That's a great sign that we're in LOX load on the second stage. So that liquid oxygen, cryogenic oxygen, basically minus 200 degrees Celsius going into the second stage now.
Fantastic. Sawyer, Quentin is asking, how long is this crew going to be in space?
This is an approximately 3.5 to 5 day mission. Of course, they're planning an extra time there in case they need to delay with weather in the splashdown zones off of California to wait for a better pass. But the Crew Dragon can only float independently for so long, not dock to the International Space Station. So that is the main constrictor, so to speak, for the mission itself. But within 3.5 to 5 days, they should be splashing down in the Pacific Ocean.
Neat. Zach, this is an interesting question here from Zach. What is the orbital frequency for this? How long does one full orbit take? Do we know? This is a totally an Alex question if I ever heard one.
Yeah, that's depending on the altitude. They're targeting a roughly 440 kilometer orbit. At least that's what SpaceX has just said recently. And so that is roughly 91, 92 minute every, like the orbital period. Every revolution around the Earth is about 91 to 92 minutes. I could calculate exactly what it is, but we're commentating the launch. I cannot spend now my time on actually doing the math for that. But it's roughly that usually for low Earth orbit. It gets, if you go a little bit lower, then it's a little bit shorter the period, going to 88, 89 minutes. But usually to the 400 roughly kilometer altitude, it's around 91, 92 minutes, just like the ISS, for example. So every 45 minutes, they're going to see one of the poles, because they're going to be either over the South Pole or over the North Pole.
I mean, I know I've said it a million times on stream already, but I'm so excited to see their imagery. This is just not the sort of thing that we're used to seeing. Like when you think of a photo or a video that somebody on the ISS or somebody, in a regular orbit would shoot, this is going to be completely different. I'm so excited. And also, I'm also kind of mind-boggled, Alex, that you just knew the answer. Good job.
It's usually about that for most of these low Earth orbits. You have to go very, very high up in around Earth to get a really weird orbital period. It's usually an hour and a half, essentially.
Really quick, dude, man, thanks for the support. They are loving the Next Spaceflight app and watching from San Diego. Thank you. Ethereal Swordsman with a $20 super asking all kinds of crazy propellant questions. Buddy, save that for a flame trench. But thank you for the support. We are under 14 minutes to go. So, yeah, we'll have to save that one for a different stream. Barbara Wells, thanks for the gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Ironclad as well, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Be sure to thank them if you got one of those gifted memberships. Ian Osgood, thank you for the support there. They say, thanks for plugging the Next Spaceflight update. I had no idea you put such a cool feature on my phone. Thanks to the devs. Yeah, once again, thank you to Declan and Flight Club and the Next Spaceflight devs. Christopher Link, thank you for the super. They say, in times past, after recovery, they get taken back to the Cape. With it being on the West Coast, where do you think they will get taken to? Will NSF get Jack on the recovery vessel? I wish. I suspect Long Beach. But I don't actually know. Do we know, Alex?
Sorry, I was muted. When they get off the boat, they can take the helicopter, so maybe they go to a better place rather than Long Beach. I'm not saying that Long Beach is horrible, right? Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, it is Long Beach.
No. I don't want to mean that. I mean that they don't need to ride back to the port with the
Right.
recovery boat. They can take the helicopter, right? So they can go to another place that they prefer, like directly to Hawthorne. I don't know if there's maybe a heliport or something like that nearby, but hey, there's an airport there, so maybe they have a way to land there with a helicopter.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Helicopters totally operate out of Hawthorne. Neat. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that's a good question and good answer.
By the
They
way,
do the
just one
same
note,
with
speaking of helicopters. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. The
no, go ahead.
security helicopter that they usually have for launches is actively flying around and is directly over our heads right now. That is a good sign that everything is continuing and proceeding.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, when they land with NASA missions, for example, when they were doing it on the East Coast, either on the Gulf side or on the East Coast of Florida, right? They still took the helicopter either to the nearest big city. For example, if they were, I don't know, off the coast of Panama City, for example, so they went to some place there, and then they took the Gulf Stream from NASA to the Houston facilities. Or if they were landing off the coast of Cape Canaveral, for example, then they will return to the Kennedy Space Center, for example. So I assume they're going to be doing something similar as well with a helicopter on the West Coast. And again, there's the municipal airport at Hawthorne, for example, so they can take that, for example. Yeah.
Ship 33 is asking, I am in the country of Panama. Will I be able to see the second stage? I don't know, but I would definitely go outside and look. Probably straight up.
Yeah, anyone along the eastern
the
coast of Florida
trajectory.
will be directly overhead, speaking from experience, almost 90 degrees straight up looking. Down there, it might be a little more towards the horizon, but if you're anywhere along that southeasterly trajectory, definitely go outside, take a look. If you happen to catch any photos or videos, please send them to us: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, X. We're on all of them.
Good deal. Under 10 minutes. Under 10 minutes to 4 humans launching into a polar orbit for the very first time. Fantastic. C.S. Miller is asking, arrived to the stream late, so apologies if already asked. Are they flying to a higher low Earth orbit to avoid all the space stuff flying opposite of their orbit? Nope. They're going to what, like 430 nautical miles, Alex?
Not nautical miles, kilometers. And yeah, the latest that we had from SpaceX is 440 kilometers. Yeah.
And for reference, the ISS is just over 400 kilometers, so not much higher than the space station.
Yeah, ironically, the ISS is roughly 420 kilometers. So yeah, but it's like another 20 kilometers higher than the ISS. It's not like Polaris Dawn, where they were trying to get like the highest apogee around the Earth, and no, it's not like that. It's normal 400 something kilometer orbit. But yeah.
Sawyer, Augusta is asking, is it worth it to go outside if I live in Lakeland?
100% yes. Anywhere in Florida, it's never hurts to go outside and take a look. And this one's going to be very unique. So west coast also of Florida, take a look out there. And again, if you're used to seeing southeasterly launches, where to look, kind of look in that region, but tilt your neck up a bunch. From where I live near West Palm Beach area, polar launches go probably about 80
We've been to the South Pole before.
To the South Pole, around 10 or 12 times, but to both poles combined, around 30.
How long did you take to ski there?
My last expedition in Antarctica, I skied a new route
they're
up
talking
the,
to the crew about their
Fourth Glacier and across the plateau to the South Pole. This expedition was almost 900 kilometers, and it took me 50 days to complete.
Can you believe that in just 42 minutes we'll fly from here in Florida to the South Pole?
Unbelievable.
So cool. Interesting point made. It's not going to take days. It's not going to take hours. It's going to take minutes. I completely forgot what we were talking about before we just heard that.
We're talking about the viewing from, was it Lakeview?
Lakeland, yeah. So the moral of the story is, if you're in Florida, worst case, you go outside and see nothing. If you don't go outside, worst case, you could have seen it and you missed it. So just go outside, I mean,
from experience after Starship flights and other events that have gone overhead and I didn't see them, please go outside and look. It never hurts.
Absolutely. Good point, Sawyer. 6.5 minutes to go. Oh my goodness. Alex, where are we at in the timeline here? We're almost to fueling complete, right?
Yeah, so they are chilling down the engines now, conditioning them for flight. Remember, there's a lot of liquid oxygen that it's going to go through all of those 9 pumps on, like, 1 pump per Merlin engine.
Heard the call out, stage 1 fuel load's complete. We're right on the timeline. Right now, we're down to just liquid oxygen loading on the second stage. Now, were you hearing these kind of announcements?
Well,
nice.
Just got it from John. I was going to say that they just wrap up the RP1 load on the first stage as well, and that they just remain on the liquid oxygen side of things, both for the first stage and the second stage. First stage liquid oxygen load will wrap up at T-3 minutes, roughly, and then for the second stage will be at T-2 minutes.
You just got Innsbruckered, bro.
Yeah, right?
All right, Sawyer, we should let you go so you can do camera things and enjoy the launch and cover it for us. Thank you, Sawyer.
Thank you so much. This is an honor. We are excited for this launch here at the Cape team. Go Fram2, and we will talk to you hopefully after lunch.
Indeed. This is going to be a good one. We're all very excited for it. Max and Julia and Sawyer are all out there for us. So we will have some awesome imagery of this, hopefully in about 5 minutes.
We'll be coming
Very-
up on terminal count for the Dragon spacecraft. That is at T-minus 5 minute mark.
On back,
Excellent.
retract.
And then
Dragon is
it's
in
back.
configure for terminal count.
There it is.
All right, now watch that strong back, that big white structure that you see venting next to the rocket. That's also venting.
Yeah.
It will start to lean back.
One of the things that they need to do as well as we approach T0 is the alignment of the onboard computers, sort of like the inertial navigation, I guess.
Right.
On both Dragon and Falcon 9. So yeah, that's part of all of the last minute checks and procedures that they need to go through. Watch that top clamp, sort of like the little claw at the top of the stromback to open, because that's sort of ahead of the retraction.
Right. That little, like, stabilization claw.
Yep.
I wonder if we'll ever get a stabilization claw in Texas again. Oh, look, there it goes. It's retracting right now.
You can see also the two vents that are 180 degrees. Those are the ones that cause the spirals in the sky.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. You can see there. And retraction underway. Look at that.
There it goes.
Slowly.
There it goes. Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon now standing on the pad on their own. That strongback will do a throwback maneuver at liftoff, but now it is nice and out of the way, so it can do that maneuver.
I'm asking what it is venting. That's a liquid oxygen tank, so it's venting gaseous oxygen. It's boiling off, and you need to keep those pressures in check, because otherwise, if you let that run off, essentially the pressure builds up, and you don't want that, right? So that's what it's venting right now, gaseous oxygen.
Got it. Under 3 minutes. A minute from propellant load wrapping up, and then we'll see another big vent, right, Alex?
Yeah, stage 1 LUX load is now complete, so they are approaching to the second stage liquid oxygen load, and we should see that return of the vent, as you were mentioning, as they sort of do those pushbacks, as they call them, clearing out all of those lines. Don't want to have anything left over in them, right, before the liftoff. Could be a little bit risky and dangerous, and so that's one of the things that they're going to be doing. Reminder, this launch is to the south, so it's going first a little bit southeast, and then it's going to do sort of a turn around the coast of Florida to hit that 90-degree orbit to the south. So, don't be surprised if you see something like that, because it's all planned.
It's going to be an interesting trajectory, to say the least.
Yep.
All right.
And stage 2 LUX load complete. Propellant load is now complete.
Under 2 minutes, a minute and 45 to go. At a minute to go, Falcon 9 will be in startup, and that is the point at which the rocket takes control, and if it doesn't see anything bad, it'll go to space. If it sees anything it doesn't like, it will say, nope, I'm not going to space today. So hopefully the rocket is happy in about 20 seconds once it goes on internal power. I'm just speechless. This is amazing. You always gotta love spaceflight firsts, and this is a big one.
First female German astronaut. Okay,
First
1
polar
minute.
orbit.
True.
And now the
All right.
Falcon 9 in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup. 50 seconds
Dragon
to
in
go.
countdown.
Keep your eyes on the base of the pad there. You'll see the rainbirds, that water suppression, the water-based sound suppression system fire up. And you'll see a green flash if we're lucky.
Go for launch.
We're go for launch.
We'll go for launch, yeah.
Fantastic.
30 seconds.
And again, this is a southern trajectory. So if you are in Florida and you're not already outside, now might be a good time. 15 seconds to go. There's the water. Under 10. There's the T-tab igniting the engines. There's ignition. And liftoff of Fram2, the very first human mission to a 90-degree inclined polar orbit. Vehicles approaching max Q. I always hesitate to talk over that crackle.
So cool. Different perspective as well of the trajectory. You can see that.
Yeah, compared to our normal, trajectory launches out of the Cape, this is just very visibly going sort of sidewards to the camera.
Yeah.
And you can see the exhaust plume expanding, this time from a different perspective as the vehicle ascends into thinner and thinner air.
Ooh, side by side. Look at that.
Look at
that expansion is completely normal. Coming up should be main engine cutoff.
It looks like you can
stage
even
separation.
see gimbling. Like it looks like the vehicle is turning.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And expect a flip and boost back burn with this mission. Even though it's landing on a drone ship, it's doing a short boost back burn on the booster.
Got it. Max is absolutely killing it with this track.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, look at that.
There's engine cutoff. Do we have second engine start? It's hard. It's real hard once it goes dark to keep tracking it and then find the second stage. But there you go. From the onboard cameras, you can see. Wow!
Ooh, the nebula. Look at that.
That would be the boost back burn interacting with the second stage engine.
There we go. Boost back burn.
That is gorgeous.
Wow.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And
Did not
looks
expect
like it shut
that.
down.
You can hear some of the reactions from Max and other people out in the field. Really spectacular.
That's so awesome.
Absolutely beautiful shot, Max.
Yeah, and that's
can't hear
completely
us.
normal. That's the interaction of the two exhausts, right? The MVAC engine and the three engines on the first stage doing that boost back burn. It's
Right.
so cool to see that.
Speaking of cool to see, 4 humans inside of a spacecraft going 7,700 kilometers an hour, at an altitude of 145 kilometers, just casually sitting there. Look at that.
Going to polar orbit, the first time this is being tried.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Looks like a really comfy ride.
We're still tracking that second stage. Look at that.
Still tracking the second stage as a point of light way out there. Fantastic. Can see the second stage continuing to pile on velocity. First stage, meanwhile, heading back to the drone ship.
Yeah, that drone ship, sort of off the coast of Bahamas, to the west of the Bahamas.
Hence why the booster had to do a boost back.
Yeah, so they can avoid landing in the Bahamian waters, essentially, because they want to avoid all of the international stuff for the moment right now. They did it once, but, they still want to make other paperwork in the meantime.
A lot of people checking in the chat. Legray is saying amazing view from Naples. Cam B says amazing view from Bradenton.
Here in the Rumble in Rockledge.
That's awesome. I'm really glad. Wow, Newport Richie. Oh, I should have told my family to go outside. I'm a bad
Water,
son.
Tampa.
Yeah, I should have told my family to go outside. I'm a bad son.
It is now over our shoulders here. The press site. It went directly overhead and behind. This is unusual for its trajectory, but so spectacular.
It went behind? How did Max even manage to track that? That is wild.
I don't know. Max is a genius, but yes, over my shoulder, I had to swivel an entire 180 to be able to see the separation of the two stages.
No kidding. That is so neat.
That was so unique, so spectacular, and the sound with the humidity, unbelievable. What a show.
Look at that altitude on the first stage, coming back down, heading for that entry burn, and landing on the drone ship. A shortfall of gravitas on this one. Meanwhile, the second stage is still going there, 13,000 kilometers per hour. The crew chilling down there.
Just hanging
building
out.
Up the Gs. Yeah.
No
building up
different
those
than-
Gs and getting into orbit.
No different than when you're sitting on a plane and you're taking off and climbing up to cruising altitude, except maybe a whole bunch more G-forces and a whole bunch more velocity and a whole bunch more altitude.
And hundreds of thousands of feet and everything in altitude. Yeah.
Not much different. There's entry burn.
There we
Falcon
go.
9 fights fire with fire. Looks like we caught it just as it wrapped up, and you can see a little bit of plasma building up in the grid fins there. Totally normal as the second stage continues to power into space. Alex, I'm seeing something on the timeline here that I want to ask you about. Landing burn for the booster appears to be offset from second engine cutoff 1. Normally they're kind of right at the same time. Is that because this is a polar orbit or not a Starlink or...
It depends on the mission. For example, for Starlink missions, the landing burn occurs a little bit earlier than SECO. All the missions, it happens after SECO, actually. It sort of depends on the trajectory and things like that. This one, for example, it had a boost back burn that sort of shortened the flying distance of the first stage. So, right now I just heard a call out that, the latest abort mode is Panama. So they are in the last portion of their flight right now. If they were to abort right now, they will be aborting sort of off the coast of Panama. So that's how far. Oh, there we go.
Landing
drone
burn.
ship views.
Let's see if they have solid video the whole way down.
There's the drone ship on the booster camera.
There you have it. That looks like
stable.
a good landing.
Yeah, there we go.
Fantastic. All right, now, second stage, continuing to power the crew into space. We're moments away from second engine cutoff 1 and Dragon deploy. And then they'll be in that 90-degree orbit.
Yeah, terminal guidance is enabled right now. That means it's the final fine-tuned guidance on that second stage, hitting that precise orbital insertion for this mission. Should be coming up on shutdown very soon.
Can see that nozzle absolutely glowing red, just radiating that heat.
There it is.
And there's engine cutoff. Fantastic. And then we should
And
hopefully
great
get
news
video.
there. We heard the call out for nominal orbital
Dragon
insertion.
copy. Nominal.
Dragon copies nominal.
Launch escape system disarmed.
Oh, another good call out. They're in orbit where they want to be. They've disarmed launch escape system. Doesn't need it anymore. We're 191 kilometers up. We've got the view of the crew.
Oh, zero G indicator. Looks like a polar bear. How appropriate.
Yeah. Should be coming up on Dragon separation. It used to be multiple minutes, several minutes after SICO, but now they've shortened that. There we go. Look at that. Dragon separation.
Oh, that's cool. I wonder if we can see the placer in that shot. If
Yeah,
it's that
to
thing
the
there at the
right.
bottom.
Look at that. Yeah, it's there on the right. Look at
That's so neat.
that. Wow. You can see some city lights underneath.
To your polar orbit.
Gorgeous.
Enjoy the views of the poles. Send us some pictures, and our hearts will be, minds will be flying with you as you go over the poles. Have a great flight.
And Dragon, this is your launch director here. Pretty wild to see the Fram adventure sailing to the poles once again, over 130 years from its christening. This time, though, with Starlink. Godspeed, Fram2. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, look at that. Those Draco thrusters firing.
SpaceX team calling up to Dragon. What you're seeing right now, the shots of Dragon, that was the Draco thruster checkout.
Oh. John,
nice.
John was explaining that. I was going to say that, yeah, they're testing the Draco thrusters. That's one of the first things that they do as
That's the second time on stream you've gotten inspruckered.
Well, dehumidifier activation and
was
service
actually-
section Draco checkouts.
Nice.
Fantastic. Wow. All right. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what kind of imagery we're gonna get. Hopefully, we get some remarks from the crew. I wonder if they're like passing over different ground stations or what have you right now. But
Also
what
a different
launch.
launch, so yeah.
What an absolutely beautiful launch. Like,
Stunningly, again, I was talking with Julia Bergeron from our team just here now, and she was saying, I wish we had ear protection. This was one of the loudest launches. She compared it to SLS in terms of how the volume.
really?
Yes.
I wonder if that's because like it sticked around closer to the shore for a little bit longer since it's southeast and everything.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
intrigued as to why as well.
Yeah.
I like that's really fascinating. And you know, anecdotally, Sawyer, I did see a lot of people in chat saying, you know, oh, really heard this one from such and such location in Florida. Sounds like it was really spectacular. I mean, it certainly looked really spectacular. Max killed it with that track.
Yes, getting some pictures from my vantage point here as well. But that, yeah, the noise on that, if you can hear it beyond Titusville area, beyond the Cocoa area, north or south, then you know it's loud.
I do wonder, I don't know if we have people in chat that live sort of, to the south of the launch site. Have you heard any sonic boom from this? Because the launches do produce a sonic boom, but they always happen over the ocean. However, this one is sort of goes around the coast. So when they launch to the ocean, right, that sonic boom from the launch happens over the ocean and nobody is around to hear that. But if they go around the coast, sometimes you might actually hear that. And this is a thing more often on the west coast in California. In the Ventura area, for example, they hear sonic booms from the launch, not from the landing, from the launch. Because it goes supersonic and it creates that sonic boom.
Yeah, Legray is saying no sonic boom, but a loud roar. Neat.
Okay.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I'm really curious.
Max, are you there? I see you're unmuted. Maybe? Maybe not.
No,
Hello? Hello, Jack.
Oh, it's Max.
There you go.
Max
Hello.
decided to grace us with his presence. The master tracker puts down the controls briefly to bless us mere mortals with his grace. Dude, that was crazy, man. That was a great track.
That was, it's crazy because I have no problem saying that was like the best track I've ever had in my life of any launch. and I wasn't even looking at the head when it was tracking. Obviously, I was just focusing on the screen in front of me. And after I lost it after Miko, I couldn't pick it up again. I look up and the camera's pointing behind me. It's like, oh my god, like Jesus. But that was polar launches out of LC-39A are absolutely ridiculous. That was incredible.
It really seemed like a special one. I'm glad you had a good time, man. That was really a treat.
That sure was.
Good thing you rigged the head right. Like, imagine if there had been a cable that snagged or something and it like unplugged itself as it rotated backwards.
Well, after crew 10, so for crew 10, I ran into it's right. It ran out of right hand motion, and that's why I lost a booster coming into the LZ. I made sure to do a full and thorough check of motion of the entire head, up, down, left, right, like very, very far right, like behind me, and it was all good. So it was probably one of the more stressful setups because I had to rush this head together in like 25, 30 minutes, but I'd say it worked out.
Yeah, because you were fighting the weather the whole time.
That tends to happen in Florida.
For real. Well, thank you, man. That was really cool. All right, I believe we are working on some replays, but in the meantime, they are deploying the nose cone, or should be, on Dragon, right, Alex?
Yeah, the nose cone is open. Now that cupola is already exposed to space. Of course, they are not, like the crew themselves, they are not exposed to space. They have a hatch in between. It's the same hatch that they use for when, for example, they go to the ISS and they have a docking port instead of a cupola. Then there's sort of like a space in between, and that that hatch sort of protects them from the exterior of the spacecraft. And so, once they get, right now they're already in orbit, so they'll be able to exit their seats and doff their suits, essentially, right? And so they're going to be able to get to that cupola really soon, hopefully.
Neat. Let's see. We are working on getting some media from the team out in the field. I see Sawyer's working on stuff. I'm sure Max is working on stuff. I'm sure Julia's working on stuff. So stand by. In the meantime, thank you, Clark, for saying hi with the $2 super. Ken Schaefer gifting 20 Red Team memberships just before launch. Thank you, Ken. Ethereal Swordsman again. Buddy's having a good time tonight. Sadly going to miss the Flame Trench. Working retail is unpleasant, but that's what I be doing on Friday. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Steve Dune, thanks for the support and the kind words. Roseanne DeVasto, thank you for the $20 and the kind words. And Echo Deal, thank you as well. They say, would be neat to show a little nav ball orientation widget on your tracking shots in the future so we can see the camera flip over. That would be kind of cool. Like a telemetry indicator for the tracking shot. That would be neat. Hey, Max, more stuff for you to set up. Okay.
You what, mate?
You can't park there.
Well, I did. What you gonna do about it?
Thank you for your extremely hard work tonight and always. How about that? You didn't expect thankful, did you?
I did not. You caught me off guard.
Well, just got to keep you on your toes. All right. Continuing to work on some of those replays and some of those images coming in from our folks in the field. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you all for watching along with us. This was a really special one, and I'm hoping we get some really awesome imagery from the crew. Wow, okay, all my questions in the queue are from before launch, so none of these work. Y'all, if you have any questions, at NASA Spaceflight in chat while we wait for some replays. Ghost Black is asking, When polar EVA? I don't know, maybe Fram2. That would be cool, though. Astro Sandy is asking, will they experience more sunlight than a less inclined orbit? There must even be some of their orbits that will be nearly all in sunshine, right? This is also a super Alex question.
Well, if they were right on the Terminator, that line between sunlight and darkness, then they will see constantly the sun, right? Especially now that it's very close to a 90-degree orbit, because it depends on when on Earth's orbit you are around the sun. I mean, not around the Earth, but like Earth orbiting the sun, and because of its inclination, whatever. But I mean, it depends. I could go on a whole rant here about orbital mechanics and whatever, but like even the ISS can see the sun for multiple days without setting, and it's not on a polar orbit. But yeah,
again, orbital mechanics are tricky
and very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much to all of our viewers on Popular Science Channel. We appreciate you joining with us. If you like what you see, come back again sometime, because this is what we do. We broadcast rocket launches whenever and however we can. So, yeah, thanks for watching along with NSF. All right. I'm excited for replays. Are you excited for replays?
I am.
What replay are you most excited for? Is it this one? No, I bet it's not this one. I bet it's Max's track. Gorgeous. Always love how night launches just turn night into day.
Yeah. Some people noticing, I guess I should mention this again, because it's a 39A launch. So you may see a little fire there on sort of to the left of the pad on the right-hand screen, I guess.
Oh yeah,
and
good
that
call.
that is completely normal. They use T-tab, a pyrophoric fluid. It's called it like that because pyrophoric fluids are fluids that burn in contact with oxygen, and so they use that to ignite the engines. And when it is on the pad, like right there on that replay, when it is igniting those 9 engines on the pad, that T-tab is supplied from a ground tank and ground supply from the pad. It is not from onboard the rocket. And so though that remaining T-tab in the line, that is burned off essentially. It is vented and it burns off with the own atmosphere oxygen. So yeah.
T-tab
totally
stands. T-tab is 2 acronyms: TEA, TEB, triethylborane and triethyl aluminum, and they ignite on contact with oxygen, and that's a normal thing that we see them burning the excess T-tab off at 39A after launches. Totally normal. Also, that's that green flash at ignition is the T-tab.
Yeah.
Another replay here. Gorgeous. Who's Jay? Whose shot is this one? This is Jerry track. Ooh. I don't know we were having Jerry do a track. Jerry Pike. You may have seen some of his drone work on our feeds. Neat.
And by the way, T-tab is not hypergolic, it's pyrophoric. It's different.
Some hypergols are pyrophoric, some pyrophoric substances are hypergols, but not all of them are both.
Exactly. Yeah. Pyrophoric just means that it burns in contact with oxygen. But if you put T-tab together, it doesn't.
That shot for a sec. Oh, look, you can see Falcon 9 at the end of the plume, just barely. That's gorgeous. That reminds me of like the old school like Saturn V shots. Just gorgeous. All right, I'm gonna regret this. I'm gonna regret this later, but I think I'd like 90-degree orbits out of 39A?
Oh, you're saying that you like the Southern Polar Corridor? Because that's what they
That's
used.
the Southern Polar Launch Corridor, yes.
Someone clip that. Someone clip that. We need that.
I think I like the Southern Polar Corridor. Okay, that was pretty cool.
Okay, we need to tell Ryan to put that in the intro as well.
No. That's not how that works. All right,
It is totally how that works.
This is
This
going to
is
be
the
fire.
replay. This is the replay we're all waiting for, and there's going to be audio. So let's
Look for
listen.
the
I'll just
for
hear
the
me hooting and
umbilicals.
hollering in it.
This one I always like. Look at that.
Fantastic, right off the pad, rock solid. Not
Oh my
a
gosh,
little
it
bit of
went.
wiggle.
Can I just say right
Here's
now,
the
the
audio.
entire team is huddling around this replay, watching it all.
It's a good replay.
That crackle.
Never gets old. I'd like to point out that the rocket has not left frame yet. Way to go, Max.
Yeah. Someone asking if we'll show the nebula. I mean, it's gonna come up on these replays, right? We're still on the liftoff phase of the.
Yeah,
of
a
the
lot of
replays.
times the replays will cut when the rocket leaves frame and we'll go to the next replay kind of thing. Or the replay will be a compilation of all the times where the rocket was in frame and nice and stable. In this case, it's a good enough track that we can just watch the whole thing. Because Max killed it.
I like
Really?
I like Sawyer saying, "Oh my gosh, it went when it lifted off."
Yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good.
Put it in the intro, anyways.
Did I really say that on air?
Yes, you did.
Look at this. Oh, worth it. Worth saying it. But this track is money.
It is. It is indeed. And it
Look
is
at the
literally
color
money
on that.
because that robotic tracking head is not is expensive.
It's worth noting, by the way, that is identical to the color that we saw here in person, with that weird bluish greenish tint as it trailed off. It was
Really?
unbelievable. Yes, I've never seen a color like that.
Wow.
And again, at this point, it was directly behind us. We are directly in front of the NASA press site building here. We lost it behind the building. We were like, oh my gosh, it's actually directly behind us. So that's why it took a second to reacquire.
Wow.
That's from Gage, right? Yeah, from the Cape Cams.
Nice. Good job, Gage.
Yeah. That's really
Tracking-
complicated.
Tracking from Starbase, no less.
Not that the camera is at Starbase, but he is at Starbase.
Right.
That's shut down. And engine ignition. We're gonna see the nebula.
I hope so. Yes.
There it is. That really short boost back burn. Only 30 seconds compared to the usual minute boost back burn.
I feel like
that
you
they
could
do.
even see the first stage slow down.
Yeah.
Yes, and it felt that way in person. You saw it start to separate away, and you definitely noticed that speed difference as the two separated. It was
Wow.
unexpected, but beautiful. Everything you're seeing on camera, I'm amazed that it captured what it was like to see it, because this was one of the most unique launches I think we've all ever seen here.
Wow. Really special stuff. Margaret's asking what causes that nebula. So the Falcon 9 first stage is doing a boost back burn, so it has rocket exhaust coming out its rear end. Meanwhile, the second stage is doing its burn to get the payload into orbit, so those two rocket plumes interacting is what makes that nebula. Sawyer, look at this shot from you, my guy.
Well, thank
Great
you.
work.
That was it leaping off the pad. Thank you. Yeah, it's tough because you want to try and figure out the lighting and the haze and all of that ahead of time. And
Jeez, look at that.
it's so dark. It's dark in the screen. But then this was the color as it went up was
Wow.
unbelievable. This is one of my favorite shots. The fact that you could see it expand out, kind of narrow where that mock diamond is, and then continue onwards with that blue was just so
Great
awesome.
work.
Max and I both celebrating here.
That's such a hard thing to photograph too, because at that point it's so far away, it's moving so fast, it's so dim. To be able to nail that color. Good job, Sawyer. That's really beautiful. This
For
reminds
the
me.
camera people, that's a 1/400th and ISO 4000.
Yeah. What f-stop?
F6.3, because that's the lowest my big lens goes.
Right.
Really cooking.
It reminds me of those like popsicles you'd get from the ice cream truck, like the firecracker popsicles, the red, white, and blue ones. I don't know. Am I hallucinating? All right. Anyways, you know what's not really dim like the rocket at this phase of flight? The streak shot. Wow. You can see the dog leg.
I love that curve in it. You expect it to keep going up like most of these or start arcing over. No, it just does a hard line. And it's hard to get because it keeps going overhead and behind you.
Neat. Great work from the entire Cape team. Fantastic. Now, you may be asking yourself, where is Dragon right now? Well, turns out SpaceX has a follow Dragon page, and guess what? They're over the South Pole right now. Well, Antarctica.
Yeah. In 31 minutes. Just 31 minutes after liftoff, they're already or Antarctica. Yeah, like just give it a couple more minutes and they'll be already over the South Pole.
Wait,
but yeah,
they already passed over the South Pole, I think, right?
No, they're about to pass over it.
Okay.
They're still going south, and then they pass over the South Pole, and then they start going north on the other side of the globe. This is what I meant way back in our stream. Remember that people were confused. Oh, it's launching south, but the splashdown is going south to north. How is it like that? Well, because on the other side of the globe, the trajectory goes to the north.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Spheres, how do they work?
Yeah, right. But then you can see that track, and you're going to be able to follow that.
Spheroids.
Yeah, sure. We can accept that. But
sorry, continue.
But yeah, you can imagine that, in 3.5 days from now, which is the current mission duration. A lot of people were also asking about that, so we'll repeat it again. The mission currently is scheduled for about 3.5 days. But one of the things of these missions is that depending on the weather, it might delay a little bit. They cannot delay a lot, though, because this is a free-flying mission. Dragon, once it docks to the ISS, when it goes to the ISS, right, and it docks to it, it can stay up there for months, like up to 8 months. It's the current record. However, on its own, it can only fly at most a week alone, right? And that is because when it's at the ISS, it uses a lot of the resources from the ISS, the power and everything from the ISS. They also power down the spacecraft while it is docked to the station, right? But when it is in free flight, it's all on the capsule itself. And so all of the things are being used in the capsule, and they only have about a week or so. So right now, 3.5 days of mission duration. They could, in theory, extend that a day or so if they wanted to, but that's not desirable, of course, because, again, limited resources on the
you don't want to really
spacecraft.
Push into your margin like that if you don't have to.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, well, let me just wrap up some more support here. Ethereal Swordsman again, they say Max might have terrible taste in second stage nozzles, but for sure he does have some of the best camera work in the biz. I recommend peeps go buy his prints. His engine prints go all too hard. I agree. I fully endorse this statement. Everybody that gets a metal print helps support the photographer who shot the print, and Max is amazing, and Sawyer is amazing, and Julie is amazing. So definitely pop over to the shop and consider putting some of their art on your wall, because there's no higher praise that you can give to any of us. It really means a lot. And Elizabeth Hopner with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Another one of those common names we see pop up all the time. Thank you. No message for me to riff on. But seriously, that's a huge amount of money. And we do so much here. We've got the 3 24/7 live streams. We have the Cape crew. We have Starbase crew. We have everybody working in the background, like, oh, I don't know, Jay, who ran this stream. So yeah, the big honking team that we have here doesn't just magically pay for itself. Y'all are really helping out. So thank you. We couldn't do it
You
without
too,
you.
Jack.
Yeah. Well,
You've been a great host for this broadcast. Yeah.
I've done better.
Admit. Just admit it.
I've done better. Anyways, thank you, Alex, for being on the stream. We appreciated your insight and wisdom.
Yeah, it's always fun, and of course, again, 3.5 days from now, they're gonna be coming home, splashdown off the coast of California. They have up to 3 splashdown sites, sort of the near area of LA and San Diego. So hopefully, we get to see all that. But yeah, more stuff coming up soon. That launch pad that you see there on the right, there's gonna be another launch from there in just a few weeks from now. CRS-32. With a cargo Dragon to the ISS, another Dragon mission from 39A. Gonna be exciting.
Awesome. Sawyer, as well, thank you for being on stream and braving the thunderstorms.
I mean, braving it is a bit of an overstatement, especially when you get a surprise treat like this. The skies cleared up perfectly for the launch. The rocket put on one of the greatest shows on and now off Earth. I mean, that is up there, I think, on my list of one of my favorite launches of all time, and it was an absolute honor to share it with you, Jack, Alex, especially with Max and Julia here in person, and we can't forget the amazing viewers who watched here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in and allowing us to be able to call this work.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, of course, to Max, who brought us that amazing track. I don't know if we have Max on comm still. Max, do we have you on comm still?
Jack, I'm still here.
Well, thanks for being on, man. Thank you for the track, and get some hot chocolate and stay warm.
Yeah, it's been a really long day between going out for camera setup this morning and then cramming in a Starlink in between this and this morning. But you know what, man? These are the days that we live for. Having 2 in a day and enjoying it with the best crew that anyone can. And having a happy crew out in a polar orbit is an epic way to spend the day. So I just want to say a special thank you to everyone who's watching and came to hang out with us this evening. You are the reason why we are able to do what we are, and we would not be anywhere without you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much to Sawyer and Julia, Jack, Alex, everyone who's on tonight. It's been an incredible ride.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Max. Also, thank you, as I said a moment ago, to Jay for operating the stream, and for Gage to tracked with the robotic cameras, and for Dr. WD-40 Wade, who also tracked for us, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. Yeah. Well, Jerry also tracked for us. Thank you, Jay. I knew I was forgetting somebody. I gotta get used to that. That's really cool. Always trying to up our game here at NSF. Always trying to bring you all the very best coverage we possibly can. And with your continued support, we'll keep doing it. All right, well, with that, I'm Jack Beyer for NSF. Hopefully we get some awesome imagery from the Fram2 crew here over the coming days. You can keep track of that on our socials. Whichever social network is your choice, we're there. So if you're not following the Framonauts account, you can follow us, or you can follow both. You know how social media works. But yeah, in the coming days, hopefully we get to see some awesome imagery from this amazing, historic mission. But until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
And here we go.
Propulsion continues to
Turbo pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off.
It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?